I'm going to call the meeting to order. Will you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening. Welcome to the Monday, August 12, 2024 meeting of the Westport Select Board. Under Mass General Law, Chapter 38, Section 20F, this meeting is being recorded. I wanted to start the meeting by acknowledging the passing of Ken Nicholson. Kendall G. Nicholson, 79, of Westport, peacefully passed away on Monday, August 5th at Charlton with his family by his side. He was the husband of Linda Nicholson. They were married in 1970 and had just celebrated their 54th wedding anniversary. Mr. Nicholson was born in Fall River and had lived in Westport for over 50 years. He was a veteran of the Cuban Missile Crisis. He served his country in the U.S. Coast Guard. He was a retired firefighter for the town of Westport, a profession he began in 1973. He also volunteered his time as a Boy Scout leader and with his therapy dog, the late Casey. I bet a lot of people remember him with Casey. At the Council on Aging, the Macomber School, and the area nursing homes. He'll be remembered as a loving husband, father, and grandfather. So our sympathies go out to the Nicholson family. I know I really like talking to him because Casey was there, and you go talk to Casey, and he was just a wonderful man, and I'm sure his family's going to miss him. Do we have anybody else want to say anything?
Just that his family's committed a lot to Westport. He has a son that's on the police department and a son that's on the fire department, so they continue to serve the town. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. A couple of announcements. If you go to the town webpage, you can see there is a posting for wind turbine debris removal. There have been parts of the Vineyard Wind accident that they had has been washing on shore. They're asking that the public please not touch the material, but there are a couple of numbers to call. Vineyard Wind is at 833-609-5768. You can find that on the webpage, but please don't touch the debris. Just call the number to have somebody come out. And then I was asked to mention, I think it was, there's some changes they're moving some things around at the transfer station. The bike drop-off for the bike walking committee is going to be moving down the hill, and then also the Boy Scout can redemption are moving down the hill. So be look on that for their new locations, but they're in the coming weeks at the transfer station. Is there any other acknowledgement or recognition? Okay, so we have a public hearing, including a request from the Shellfish Advisory Board. Does anyone want to come forward? Service Director want to come forward? Somebody want to come forward? So we have a few topics. You can have a seat. The first topic is a request from the Shellfish Advisory Board to make the following changes to the rules and regulations. Exclusion of oysters from the current shellfish permit and create a new license for oysters with a $200 fee. Oysters shall only be harvested from a boat, no waiting, north of Pigs Bridge area BB 415, and reduce the oyster daily harvest from 3 Westport baskets to 2. So that's what the posting said. Do you want to introduce yourselves and then tell us what this is about?
My name's Ronald Savaria. I live in 19 Shirley Street, and I'm the chairman of the Shellfish Advisory Board. So one of the reasons we want to have a decrease in the amount of oysters you can take and create a license. Over the past 3 or 4 years, it's gone from like maybe 4 or 5, local people shellfishing for oysters, and now there's at least 9 or 10 when the river's open. So it's really getting overfished.
I have
This is Chris Leonard, Marine
Christopher Leonard, Marine Services. We have the yearly reports that we do for the Shellfish Department, the Wharfinger Department, the Harbor Master Department. And what we have here is we have a shellfishing log, and we will go out and check commercial fishing several times a day to see who's out, what they're catching. And in that log, at the end of the year, we then say, we put together in our yearly reports, Just for instance, we're just looking at December 2022. Around 312 baskets of commercial oysters were harvested in Westport. And that's pretty much the going rate with a value of somewhere $18,000, $20,000. Year 2020, year 2021 is pretty similar to that. Then we look at the report from 2023. And for commercial oysters, we are up to 816 baskets. So there is a big demand for oystering, specifically in the area of Hicksbridge and north of Hicksbridge commercially. I can say that this is an area that is supported naturally. We have purchased oysters and planted them up there, but we don't do it every single year. And we let Mother Nature run its course. I talked to Mr. Fenley, who runs the oyster operation in Westport, and I asked him, how long do you think that it would take for a natural spat to then get to a mature oyster? And the answer was somewhere around 5 years. So we would rather be on the side of conservation with this influx of increased fishing on this area that is not a relay area. We do not plant 5,000 bushels of oysters in this area. We let Mother Nature do its thing. We try to help out where we can, but we just feel that we would rather be on the side of conservation as opposed to take it all and then deal with it. And so with these yearly reports, we do have that evidence that it is being fished more than it has in the past. And so we want to just be on the right side of things.
Okay. So we have several topics for them, but on this one, from changing to increase to separate oysters from the shellfish, make that a special license, right? And then with a 2 basket instead of 3 daily harvest.
Correct. And we are talking specifically about commercial licenses. I'm just looking at the agenda. It is just saying a new license for oysters. It should be a new license for commercially harvesting oysters. Sorry, that's just an oversight. I would like to say, because I did talk to a person today in the select board office who had a concern about the family license. And we do not want to have a change in regulations to a family license. This is specifically for commercial harvesting.
So under the section 4403 here, where it just says oyster license $200, you're suggesting it should be commercial oyster?
Commercial shellfish, commercial oyster harvesting license, yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, any questions on that? Anything on that? All right, what's the pleasure of the board? I'll entertain a motion to approve this request to change.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's unanimous. So then the next section here is a request from the board to increase the following fees. So resident family scallop,
Yes.
go ahead.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
We already got that approved.
We had, this was put through in the fee hearing
Right.
that we had earlier. I'm not sure if it was before the year turned to 2024. But these are all current prices right now.
Oh.
So I would request that no action be taken on this because we've already
no.
Okay,
done
sorry.
this.
I didn't see the note. All right, so
Sorry,
we're
too.
skipping over B. Skipping over B.
Yes,
Thank you.
yes, that is already, yes, thank you.
Are we doing C? Yes, okay,
Oh,
so,
can I just, I'm just going to go back for one more thing. There was another, in my conversation with a resident of Westport today, that we wanted to just make sure that the weighting and harvesting of oysters from a boat would be in area 4.15 exclusively, and that you would be able to wade for oysters in other parts of the river. The reason that we do not want wading north of Hicks Bridge is because we do have 2 ancient oyster reefs that run parallel with a natural unmarked channel that is north of Hicks Bridge, because we don't mark a channel north of Hicks Bridge through the Harbor Master Department. So we have some bottom there that is rather rocky where the oysters are located. But we also have a lot of mud and muck. And the fear is that if you are out of your boat and you are tromping around, you are just pushing good oysters in some locations into the mud. to the point of no return. So we just want to make sure that the no waiting is specifically for the area of BB 4.15 north of Hicks Bridge, exclusively. Everywhere, any other location, it would be acceptable. But I just wanted to clarify that because that was a concern from somebody today, not only with the family shellfish permit, also to make sure that that was specifically designated for that area.
Yeah, I think what you have in 440516 here, I think it,
Yeah, it's
maybe the
it's on the bottom
punctuation
there.
slightly different, but I think, yeah.
A little bit, but I just wanted to clarify that
Okay.
in case they're watching, just to make sure that it was noted and just to make sure that we're clear on that.
Okay, thank you. All right, C, so request from the Shellfish Advisory Board to approve the application request of Christine Fennelly, 658 Old Harbor Road, for a transfer of shellfish aquaculture license for Gooseberry Site Number 3, comprised of 25 acres. Do you want to tell us what this is about?
We had Mr. Fenley, the patriarch of the Fenley family, passed away. And we would like to keep the license within the family. I've talked to other locations, whether it's Cuddy Hunk specifically, that the aquaculture licenses would remain in the family until the family would then return the license to the town. This area in particular is offshore. You need to have done your homework and have a infrastructure that's put in there. You're not just going to go out in your rowboat in Buzzards Bay and start up a new operation. You need to have that infrastructure. In dealing with the Fenley family and all of the families that we have 81 acres of aquaculture in Westport, they dot I's, cross T's, and the Division of Marine Fisheries actually uses Westport as a pseudo model for how to operate an aquaculture farm. So without having any violations, in needing to have a massive infrastructure in this location to keep moving forward, we believe that it is only reasonable to keep the license within the family.
Well, and the note I have from Jim says that he was the only, that Ms. Fennelly was the only applicant.
So we went through, there's a waiting list for these locations. We sent registered notice to all the people on the waiting list to see if they had any interest in this site. They did not have any interest in the site, so family was the applicant.
So we're going to continue it with the family?
Correct.
And yeah,
Yes.
Okay. Is there any questions or discussion on that one?
Oh, I'll move it.
Second.
All right, so we have motion and a second to approve the application request. Is there any further discussion? I forgot to say, this is a public hearing, so anybody from the public have anything? Should have asked that before. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's unanimous. All right, anything else, Chris, going on?
It's just we are in the heat of passion right now. If we can get through Shellstock is going to be this
Next
Saturday.
weekend, Saturday.
Yeah, Saturday the 17th. You can get tickets
This
on Eventbrite and local businesses within the town. So we're gonna plug Shellstock, and please come out. And it's to purchase shellfish to be planted within the Westport River. Other than
Isn't there a roof outside of your shack? Is it still there?
there is, yeah, well, yes, yes, we we have a new a boat barn that is pretty close there, but we can plug Shellstock. I can also thank the board for allowing the banner to go across Main Road. It's very helpful for us to just try to fundraise.
Bumped our summer market.
Oh, yeah, to fundraise. So, yeah, I'm going to get in touch with the highway department to take that down as soon as we're finished there. And right now in the departments, we're just trying to get everybody home safely. We have planted around 1,200 bushels in the shellfish department. And in the Harbor Master Department, we are just making sure that everybody has their waterway user stickers right now. If your boat is in Westport waters for more than 2 weeks, you do need to pay a waterway user fee. So we're just trying to keep the peace, and once Once Labor Day hits, I'm ready to high five anybody that wants to high five. So, it's just, but it's a constant. We've had multiple calls. It's a 24/7 job always for me. I'm the point person that if there's a problem in somebody dialing 911, I'm the person that lives a mile away from the boat and then can rally everybody to go out there and help save and anybody that might be in trouble out in the water. So,
Well, thank you for what you're doing. Thank you, Chris.
alrighty, thank you.
Do we have a status on that? If we could get the status on the roof?
There's an older building that has fallen into the water down at Westport Point. The building inspector has made numerous attempts to contact the owner, and he's still going through that process. I spoke to him today. We may have to take an additional step at some point and do an assessment of the building and try to identify funds to remove it. If we cannot get the owner to do it.
So the owner still hasn't stepped up yet?
We have not heard from the owner.
Okay, thank you.
Whose property is that?
Leach, Eve Leach.
We're on to 2 license and permits. We have a request from the Holy Ghost Club at 171 Sodom Road for one-day liquor licenses at 179 Sodom Road for the following dates. Sunday, August 18, a clam boil from 12 to 5. Saturday, August 31st, Elvis concert from 4 to 8. Sunday, September 15, class reunion from 12:30 to 4:30. So we have received a favorable police recommendation on all of those.
Move with the police recommendations.
I will second that.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's unanimous. So appointments and resignations. We have, these are 2025 appointments. So we have Cable Advisory Board request for 1-year appointment for Josh Brum, Carrie Acuna, Bob Daler, Renee Kochman, and Donald Crudis.
You doing them individually?
Do you want to do them all at once?
Whatever you
All
want.
right, let's know, if anybody wants to hold on something, say hold. We'll do this all together. Historical Commission, 3-year appointment for William Kendall. Energy Committee, 1-year appointment, Walter Barnes, Brian Knapp, Henry Ritter, Max Kohlenberg, Manny Soers. Internet Advisory Board for 1-year appointment, Shauna Tees, Keith Novo, and Kathy Lanier.
Move them all.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor? Aye, that's unanimous. We have a request from Bonnie Strevel, Library Director, to appoint Amy Maderos as Assistant Director, post the Principal Clerk position, and post the Maintenance Specialist position. So is there anyone here for that? Sorry, I didn't recognize you.
No.
So do you want to tell us what's going on here? You want Jim to? Or do you want to introduce yourselves first?
Oh, I'm Bonnie Strebel. I'm the library director.
Hi.
And this is Amy Medeiros, who is currently a principal clerk, and we would like to be assistant director.
Okay. Do you want to tell us
Summarize?
what's going on here? Do you want to summarize for us, please?
Sure. So Bonnie moved up to the director's position last month, about 5 or 6 weeks ago. So the assistant director position is vacant. They would like to move Amy Medeiros up to that position. We also have, if she does move up, there would be a vacant position in the principal clerk's position, and the maintenance specialist resigned last week, so that position is now vacant as well.
Okay, so Amy Maderos was she was the
Principal
prince.
clerk.
Yeah, okay, so she was the principal clerk and went through, this is a union position, right? So it went through the proper union procedures and all of that. Okay, and then you're asking to post a principal clerk. Are you asking for just internal posting, or do we want to authorize you to post external if you don't get any applicants?
If we could do both, I do think we'll have applicants internal, but this is a 7-day posting internal.
All right, so we would be looking, all right, so let's do these one at a time. So appoint Amy Maderos as assistant director.
Amy's been there a while, right? Amy, how many years?
I can't remember.
It's that long. Amy's mother's a Westport High graduate 40 years ago or whatever. Go ahead.
Just a question. Are there education requirements for this job similar to the library director's job?
Yes, they are,
And-
yes.
And she meets those requirements?
Yes,
Okay.
She's been on a few years.
I think 8 full-time. and-
8 years?
I think
Yeah, it
8
seems about right.
full-time and 11 since she started part-time.
All right, there's nothing else, I'll move all, what are you doing it one at a time?
Let's do one.
Position first? Okay, I'll move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's unanimous. All right, and then to post, we want to motion to post the principal clerk position internally, and then if no applicants, to post it externally.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And then the maintenance position, is that
Same
also
thing.
union? All right.
Yes, it is union.
All right, so the maintenance specialist position, a motion to appoint, or to post internally and then externally if no candidates.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Aye.
All in favor?
Greg's
Aye.
moving things along.
Unanimous. All right, anything going on in the library you want to tell us about?
We have the Atwater Donnelly Trio coming. They're a folk band from Warren, Rhode Island, and they will be here a week from Saturday. And I can't remember the time, so go to our website and they will have
So
the.
you're not in competition with Shellstock, you're the
Yeah.
week after.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Should be no competition.
Great, well, thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you
guys.
very
Right,
much.
have a good day.
Thank you.
3C, appoint Michael Bouillard as cemetery foreman and to post the laborer position. Jim, you want to tell us about this one?
So Michael Bouillard is currently the cemetery laborer. He's been acting as interim foreman for the last 3 or 4 weeks. He had also acted as, or stepped up as interim foreman in the past on 2 occasions, I believe. I'd recommend that he be appointed to this position as foreman. He's done a nice job down there. The staff is doing well, and we do need some more grass cutting, but besides that, we seem to be catching up, so.
Through you, Jim, is there a probationary period or is it just
It's a union position, I believe it's 3 months that,
3 months?
yeah,
to make
the
sure?
standard probationary period.
All right, if we don't have anything, I'll move them.
Second.
Is there any discussion?
I'm
All-
sorry,
Go ahead.
probationary period, I believe, is 6 months.
6 months?
He has
Okay,
3 months to determine whether or not he wants to go
He
back
wants
to
to
his
keep,
old position.
exactly. All right, thank you.
Yep.
How are we making out with hydraulic licenses and stuff in there?
So we have one that has got their hydraulic license, a hoisting license, and Mike Brouillard has committed to getting his hoisting license as well, and that would be a condition within the 6 months. That is part of his job descriptions.
Okay, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's unanimous. We have a request from Michael Burris to appoint Cynthia Kozakowicz and reappoint Roger Menard, Jim Whiten, and Bob Daler to the short-term rental committee.
I'll move them.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's unanimous. We have a request from Michael Burris to amend the short-term rental committee to replace the Board of Health member with an at-large member to be selected by the planning board. And I think this was because their Board of Health expressed that they didn't need to participate, right?
correct,
So
yep.
we're not like removing Board of Health, kicking them out. They didn't want to be on the committee anymore. Is there,
Jim made a note that we should have the final say.
Yeah, so they would make the recommendation, and the select board would make the appointment similar to the other appointments.
yeah, okay, so this motion would just be to amend the committee to replace a Board of Health member with an open at-large,
All
not
right,
point
move-
someone specifically.
Move it.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I'm recusing myself from 3F, so Steve can take over.
Okay, do we have to read the list? Because I don't have that,
We do.
my
It's right here.
drive keeps going up. All right, thanks. All right, F is a request from Kristen Stenson, Town Clerk, to appoint the following election workers. Republicans, Amy Lawton, Marilyn Simmons, Paul Mann, Karen Warmeister, Paul Trial, Marjorie Pavo, Doris Picard, Evelyn Mercier, and Nancy Cook. We're going to do it individually or as a whole? You want to just do the Republicans now? All right, anybody want to move the Republicans?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Are you
Recuse
recusing?
myself.
Recuse from everyone, okay. Democrats, Stephen Anderson, Stephen McGinnis, Maureen Murphy, Diane Maynard, Merlin Topin, Claudette Bison, Carolyn Baker, Yvette Leverall, Eileen Moncroft, Wilfred St. Michael, Gay Gillespie, Almerenda Tenchera, Dennis Veloza, Barbara Marcotte, Dennis Ward, backup only, Ann McGuire, Ann Halterman, Colin Boyle, David P. Valkovic, Mary Lou Simcoe, Nancy Beal, Teresa A. Valencourt, Ronica Boya, and Irene Silva. That's the Democrats.
Mr. Chair, I move those Democrats to be appointed.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Seconded. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Unenrolled, Patricia Souza, Jean McGuire, Diane Forte, Beverly Search, David LaLima, Janet Shop Kershaw, Carolyn Cooper, Reginald Deschaines, Denise Tui, Joan Hopkins, Edward Reese, Phyllis Mikowitz, Beth Kalanowicz, I believe, backup only, Carol Borden, Dawn Campbell, Janice Stelgis, John Gifford, Lisa Dormus, Lynn Anderson, Maureen Boris, Megan Schufelt, Michael Marum, Peter Campbell, Richard Collett, and Suzanne M. Deck, DEC. Anybody want to move these? This is the unenrolled.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. There you go. You're back in business.
Thank you.
All right.
We have an action item, action 4A, request to approve the Narragansett Bay Wheelman Bike Road Race, I'm assuming, Sunday, September 8, 2024. It says because of the low number of riders and the different routes, the police recommendation does not include details.
They did give a favorable recommendation overall.
Okay, so it's favorable overall, but no details. Is there anyone to talk to this? All right, is there any discussion?
No, we'll go with the police recommendation. I move it.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's unanimous. We have a request from Trip Milliken to dissolve the Agricultural Open Space Trust Fund Council. Is there anyone here to talk about that? Do you want to give us the background on that, Jim?
Yeah, so this committee was set up years ago, and I believe there were 2 authorizations for borrowing over the years, one for $2 million, I'm not sure what the previous one was. They've used those funds to offset some of the land acquisitions, to offset some of the costs with CPC, as matching funds with some other conservation restrictions, but those funds have run out. I believe there is a token of in the account, but it's actually not in the account, it's just the authorization to borrow it if another project came up, but the amount in there is not sufficient to cover any projects, so they've recommended, the Agricultural Open Space Trust Fund has recommended that the commission be dissolved.
Question, how do those, for that remaining money, how do those functions get absorbed?
So it was an authorization to borrow up to the $2 million. They borrowed the majority of it. What we've done in the past, or the treasurer has done in the past, is they've done an article removing that authorization, whatever the balance is. So if it's 50,000, she could do an article next town meeting, reducing that authorization by 50,000, and it cleans up the books.
It looks like in the letter, it was 83,500, but it's not like money sitting there, it's just an authorization to
Okay.
borrow. Is there any other comments or questions?
No,
All right, so we are in receipt of a letter from the committee chair that they all unanimously agreed to dissolve the group.
I suppose we won't force them to meet. I'll move their request.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's unanimous. C, approve the license to enter and use real property between the town of Westport and the Nokochoke Hall Association Incorporated. So this is the Hicksbridge landing ramp. So my understanding is that the town administrator is recommend that we pass over this. Is that still true?
That's correct. We don't have an agreement at this time.
All right, so we don't have an agreement to approve. So you are working with, you're in negotiation, right?
We're still discussing it right now. They're looking for an easement. They're not looking for a temporary agreement, but we're still working with them.
All right. I think if it becomes, so my opinion is if it becomes clear that you can reach an agreement and that we don't want to wait until the next meeting, we could call a special meeting if that's helpful. I know the public is interested in that one. Okay. D, we have a request from Matt Armendo, Board of Health Director, to elevate the animal control officer's hourly rate from $23.04 to $25.25 and to post the position of part-time animal control officer for 20 hours per week at $25 per hour. Have Matt Armendo, Director of Public Health, and Tanya Ryden, the Chair of the Board of Health.
Yeah, good evening. Thanks for having us. So yeah, we're here to make a request to post the, and get the approval to post a part-time animal control position and set the salary for the part-time animal control. that's going to be our first request, so. The Animal Control Department has been operating with only one full-time officer for several years, which means the town does not have 24/7 coverage. Specifically, there is no coverage on Tuesday and Wednesday after 4 PM and every other weekend. The burden then falls to the PD to respond to the resident calls and, in cases of dire emergency, request backup support from New Bedford. We did receive additional funds to hire a 15-hour-a-week part-time animal control officer in FY '24, but due to the limited hours and lack of benefits, that resulted in no one willing to take the job. So we initially agreed to eliminate the additional funding in our budget, talking with Jim about this for FY '25, though we did move some of that into the overtime line. However, the Finance Committee suggested we submit a revised request, which they endorsed at town meeting, and it was approved at town meeting. So that is our first request, and we're looking to hire a part-time animal control officer at $25 per hour, 20 hours per week, which equals $26,100 per year. But we're already in August, so, we're not going to obviously use all those funds this year.
All right, so let's take these separately. So the first request is to elevate the animal control officer's hourly rate. So the animal control officer was in the salary study, right? That
Correct, yep.
it was, and what was, and it was found to be at the low end of the salary.
And I think he was actually just below the low end of the salary.
Yeah, and
This increase would put them just above the low end.
just above the low end of the salary range from the person, from that wage study that we did. Okay, and right now, he's the only animal control officer.
That's correct. We're proposing to bring him from 2304 to 2525 an hour.
Okay. All right, just on that, is there any questions or discussion on that part? And the budget, your budget, because is it within the current budget that you have already appropriated from town meeting? We'll be able to cover that?
Yes.
Yes, okay. All right, anything on that one? Let's take that one separately. So I'll entertain a motion to increase the animal control officer's rate.
So
So,
moved.
second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye, that's unanimous. All right, so then the part-time animal control officer, so you posted previously for part-time animal control, and I think you just said it, but I just want to underscore it, that we didn't get any interest in the position, right? We didn't get qualified candidates. What's our
Right.
history of posting for the part-time?
Yeah, we posted last year for $25 an hour, but only at 15 hours a week. And the feedback we were getting from the people we interviewed was it wasn't enough hours and they wanted benefits. They wanted to have the ability to get sick time and vacation time and all that.
So, and then this went before the personnel board, right? And what did the personnel board recommend?
So the Personnel Board, we went before them on July 16th, and they voted unanimously to support that proposal.
Okay, so I know, and it was, so in fairness, Jim wrote notes for us that we have. So, the primary concern that I would have is that, for across the board, we do not give benefits to part-time employees. And so if we were to hire someone on at a part-time status but gave them benefits, I think this is not a union position, so we could negotiate it separately, but I believe it would make many of our union employees part-time quite unhappy. And I'm really concerned about the impact that would have on the rest of our similarly situated employees. So that's really my biggest concern. And then I'm also kind of concerned about, I mean, it seems like 25 is still on the low end for animal control, but I'm not sure if is there a reason it would be the same rate of pay as someone who's been in a full-time capacity for several years?
Well, we're proposing to elevate Nick to a quarter higher.
25 cents higher, all right. So that's my concern with that, but I don't know, what does the rest of the board think?
Well, I share your concern as well, because I think that it's a sticky wicket and a slippery slope if we start putting somebody with a benefit package outside of the range of benefits that we are offering through collective bargaining and in our own individual contracts with employees. Now, if there's an attempt to try to equalize the imbalance in the salary structure period, which we set, I would have no problem with the increase in the rate, but I would have a problem with the benefits being part of that calculation.
Was it previously posted at 25 an hour? What was it posted at?
It was, yeah, previously, yes.
We posted a position higher than what the incumbent was making?
The last time I looked back, we posted it at 25 an hour for 15 hours a week.
Okay. All right, I don't know. What do you guys think?
Can I ask a question? I just, I thought the benefits were anything over 19 hours a week were benefited. If that's only for union,
That's for everybody,
non-union as well?
yes.
So,
So you're saying that 20-hour-a-week employees get benefit?
20, yes.
Well, so that's why we have people at 19 3/4
Right.
hours,
Yep.
right? So-
20 and up, yep.
So you're right, if it was 20, that would
That's
fit
what we're-
into
that's what we're
which is what you're proposing. However, I think a 15-minute difference is going to make a very large difference to the people who would be concerned about it.
That's the issue.
And it's not just vacation and sick time, it's also health benefits, which is not included in their budget and hasn't really been budgeted in the overall health insurance account either. So we'd be paying 63% of their health benefits if they elected to take health insurance.
so, can I just add, that's a sticky wicket we faced. We couldn't say, come here and ask for $27 an hour at less, and we might be able to hire somebody without benefits at $27 or $28 an hour. But then the discrepancy between the full-time, so, we were trying to,
Yeah.
meet the need that the town has expressed. They want another part, another more animal control coverage.
Yeah.
So that was our best calculation.
Yeah, I'm struggling because we need to get candidates, right? So, but, yeah, I'm concerned about that.
Plus the transfer station's low and
So do we, we could approve something less than that or something different than what they're proposing, and we could try again to post, or we can go with what they're proposing. What do you guys want to do?
Madam Chair, I'm okay with the dollar amount. I mean, that's 25, I understand, the same as, but I'm not in favor of the benefits. So I'd be willing to make a motion with just the increase in salary for this position. or
So-
that salary.
So to post a part-time animal control officer at $25 an hour for 20 hours a week or 19 3/4 hours?
19 and whatever does
So-
not include benefits.
All right, so you're moving to post the position $25 an hour for 19 3/4 hours per week.
up to 19, yep.
Up to.
Second.
All right, any discussion on that? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, so that's unanimous. So, good luck. I hope you can get some people in there.
We'll do our best.
We'll have to revisit, I guess, if it doesn't work out.
Yes.
What's more hours,
I
don't
did,
know.
Tanya, at the beginning when you weren't here, I remember you asked me to mention something, and I did mention about the bikes and the Boy Scout moving, but I couldn't remember if that's what you wanted me to remind people about. You don't remember either. Okay, but I did mention the Boy Scouts and the bicycles are going down the hill down there. Okay,
Yeah, Gail's in the back too, with Mike Lewis.
okay, yeah. Okay,
I'll let the bike committee report.
There you go.
Okay.
They set up a bike rack and moved already into the new
great.
lot.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
We have bike in a minute, not, did you want to, you're just walking? Okay, I thought you were going to the mic.
No.
F, we have a request from the planning board for select board comments on the special permit application for Jocelyn Gambone for property located between 1421 Main Road. Did I what?
Skipped E, Ross.
I skipped E,
Paul Ross.
sorry.
Ross, it's a bad day.
I checked you off. I checked you off prematurely. Please, come. We have a request from Ross Moran, the Westport Land Trust, to approve the conservation restriction to Wingsbrook headwaters off of Division Road, Assessors Map 45, Lot 15. Want to tell us what this is about?
Thank you. As always, thank you, board members, for working with us. In this case, we have a 26-acre piece of land that we acquired off of Division Road in December of last year. This parcel is the headwaters, or a part of the headwaters of Wings Brook leading into the East Branch. About 50% wetland, 50% upland. It actually, I brought a map if anybody.
I was hoping something.
I'm not
for the public.
projecting.
Oh, yeah,
anything. I don't know.
sorry,
Jim, do you have anything?
So, it contains a portion of the trail that the Super Bowl walk goes on, which is always a very popular thing every year. We have several hundred people that do that. And then we're currently in talks with the brewery to create a trail from the brewery that goes all the way back there to this particular parcel. So in this case, this parcel provides a great community benefit as well as ecological and conservation benefit. As a part of the acquisition process, we are required to convey a conservation restriction to a qualified organization per Army Corps of Engineer permitting. And so in this case, we are conveying this conservation restriction to the Buzzards Bay Coalition, who holds conservation restrictions on freshwater streams all across the South Coast. Again, in this case, the town doesn't have any interest, like we do sometimes when we partner on CPA projects or, as Jim mentioned earlier, ag open space projects. So the role of the select board is to affirm the conservation values and community value of the conservation restriction.
Okay, thank you. Any questions?
Okay, where is this located specifically? Is it
Yeah,
below-
I brought a map because I realized I didn't send Paula a map, actually. Somebody from the public wants to see this right there. But, so in this case, it's the red parcel on this map right here. And you can see all of the green land is protected land already, including some land that we already own. And the brewery's right here. That public trail for the future would come right across this, all the way into this red parcel right here. And back to the brewery. So it extends an area, already that is certainly very well protected.
Okay. What's the pleasure of the board?
I'll move it.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's unanimous.
Thank you very
Bob.
much.
Sorry for
Appreciate it.
overlooking you earlier. Now we're on F, request from the planning board for select board comments on the special permit application for Jocelyn Gambone for property located between 1421 Main Road and 1435 Main Road, Westport, Mass. Assessors map 84, lot 21D. So this is for a common driveway special permit to service 2 lots. We don't typically make comments on things like this, but we can if you have any. Anybody any comments you want to send to the planning board?
If we haven't been doing it,
We sometimes do.
Sometimes.
Usually for the bigger subdivisions that are more controversial.
yeah, I'm
Yeah.
familiar with that, but something like this, we
Right.
probably should say nothing.
All right, so nobody has any compelling need to.
Agreed.
All right. G, request to create an offshore wind advisory committee. So I know there's some people here for this, so I just want to be very clear. The only discussion we are entertaining tonight is whether we should or should not form this committee, and maybe like what we should task the committee with doing, and who might be members of the committee. So just want to be super clear, we are not talking pro or con wind, one way or the other. We are talking about pro or con a committee to advise the select board on the wind. So we talked about this in a previous, bless you.
Thank you.
We talked about this on a previous select board, and one of the things we asked Jim and Paula to do was to reach out to some of the committees we thought might have an interest in participating in a committee like this. So we sent out a note to see if anybody had anything that they wanted to say about it. So we were thinking at the time, possibly a select board member, a planning board member, conservation member, FinCom, climate resilience, economic development, Warwith, and Shellfish. So we sent out notes to them. We did get some comments back for some of them. I don't think anybody said they did not want to participate. So I think planning and conservation had said that they would participate, and then climate resilience said they were going to meet in September. So I think the first thing we want to talk about is whether we want to form a committee at all. So When we talked about it before, I didn't really think there was a compelling reason to create the committee. I didn't think there was an urgent reason to create the committee. Because we don't have any proposals from any offshore wind companies. There's really nothing to advise on, right? Certainly when there is a proposal, we would need some advice on. I personally changed my mind when debris started washing up on the beaches of Westport that show that clearly we have an interest in offshore wind, even if we don't have any proposals right in front of us. And so we did, Jim was in contact with Vineyard Wind. What was their cleanup plan? You can see we have a memo that Jim created, since our last meeting about how to pick up the debris. But for me, it made it a little bit more urgent that if someone's going to be talking to Vineyard Wind or getting updates from any of those companies that are out there, it seems like it should be a committee to me to do that. So I don't know. Let's just talk first. Like, does anybody think we should not form a committee for that?
It's needed.
Okay, all right. Does anybody in the public want to speak just very specifically to no, you should not create this committee? Okay. You can go to the mic. It has to be very specifically. Yeah. Okay, you have to go to that mic right there. Yeah, and introduce yourself, please.
So Jean-François Paquin from Drift Road. So actually, we have like 6 committees right now that are advertising like vacancies. And half of them, I don't even recognize the committee names on the list of all the committees that exist in Westport. And, we are impacted by this offshore wind. But to me, it's like, it's a Board of Selectmen type of, like, if there's any representation from Cape Wind or whoever, like, it should be Board of Selectmen. I don't know why we would need an extra committee when we have a hard time finding positions and vacancies and stuff like that. And all these discussions we've had a long history of conversations about wind and wind farms. And it's always been kind of like the Board of Selectmen.
All right, thank you. Just to be clear, the committee would be advising the Board of Selectmen. So the committee is not making decisions instead of the Board of Selectmen. Any decisions would be made by the Select Board.
Maybe clarifying question. So is the committee like internal to, like, with existing committee members of other committee, or is it like you're going to have some vacancies for like?
Well, we haven't talked about it yet, but I would assume we're going to have at-large members. We haven't got to that point yet.
Can you let them know the list we have proposed?
Yeah, so
They don't have that.
Oh, they don't have it in front of
That's
us. So
from
what was
Jim.
previously proposed, which we can change, is Select Board member, Planning Board, Conservation Commission, Finance Committee, Climate Resilience, Economic Development, Westport River Watershed Alliance, and then someone from Shellfish or a representative from the fishing community. I personally believe we need several at-large positions as well, if we're gonna do that. Really specifically on yes or no, we should form this committee. Go ahead.
Really specifically, a question, please. Brian Ponzalillo, Drift Road. You've talked around what you would charge this committee with. I'd like a more definitive answer when you say they will advise the board on wind. What does that mean?
That's not really yes or no, should we form this committee? But I think where you're going there is what would the committee do, right? So we actually have, we haven't talked about, you can, just to kind of answer the question. We haven't talked about what we're charging the committee to do, but it would be advisory. We know that. It's advisory committee. We're not ceding authority to anybody. We will talk in this meeting right now tonight, we will talk about what we're gonna charge the committee with doing.
I didn't know that. I thought this was, that you would ask for people to only speak.
So you gotta go to the
May I
microphone.
speak?
No, you can go, I'll let you talk more broadly later. Right now, we're just talking about yes or no, we should form a committee.
Okay,
But you need to go to the mic when you're
all
talking.
right. Hang on.
Constance, you gotta go to the mic.
Yes, we really need to form this
Thank you.
committee. You don't want a good reason why?
Go ahead.
Okay, so I read the memorandum where Vineyard Wind had stated that they brought somebody over and they picked up 4 pounds of turbine debris, and so that was a cleanup effort. I went out there the evening after they had supposedly been. And I picked up, and this was a couple of nights, this was 2 different nights, a lot more debris. So I thought that was kind of disingenuous, and I'm afraid that that's the kind of response we might get if we don't have a group of people that are really keyed into this and paying close attention. I want to show you one thing.
Constance, please don't make a mess on these are dangerous materials that you should not have been picking up.
This.
No, please do not.
This right here, so this is mostly the plastic foam, pounds of it. This right here is a fiberglass shard. And when it breaks down, you can't see it in the sand at all. And it is sharp, because I was stupid enough to try to pick it up very carefully, and I got it all in my fingertips.
Thank you, Constance. I'm gonna cut you off. So the board here seemed to be in favor of creating a committee, and you are suggesting that it's a very good idea if we create a committee. So I don't really think we need to talk more about that unless somebody on the board would like to address more about.
Welcome to come up and check it out.
All right. We're.
No, like
Yes or no, should we form a committee? That's
no.
it.
So I would say no.
You're saying no.
I'm saying no, but like.
I'm just trying to move this conversation along, right? Because the next part of this conversation is what should the group do? And so I will give people more chance to talk, but I want to be
like if we
careful.
say, so my question respectfully is, if we say yes, we form a committee, the committee is the committee like, they're not, like, these interactions of how to deal with this is the responsibility, it's not the responsibility of a committee, it's like, this is public
It's the
safety.
responsibility of the select board, yes.
Yeah.
Or the conservation commission, I'm not sure which exactly, but. All right, so it seems like we are generally in favor of forming the committee. I said I was gonna write up a potential charge of the committee and then totally forgot, and Craig reminded me, and then I went and Googled offshore wind committees. And Nantucket has one. Nantucket has an offshore wind work group. They have a really nice website, actually, that had a bunch of information on it. So I asked Paula to print off theirs so that we could use that as a starting point to kind of give us some idea if this is what we wanted that group to do. So most of this page is like the membership, but I just want to, because you all wouldn't have had this, but if you Google Nantucket Mass Offshore Wind Group, they have a bunch of information. But I'm just going to read the little excerpt that I thought would be a good starting point for our conversation. So it's under the what we do. It says local governments and property owners have rights to be consulted on projects and policies that affect their interests, including impacts on their cultural and environmental resources. The Offshore Wind Work Group's mission is to help represent the best interest of the island to wind developers seeking to build wind farms offshore Nantucket. Along with our legal counsel, our advisory work group meets and consults as needed to assist town leadership. 2, evaluate local environmental, economic, or visual impacts. Determine appropriate project mitigation measures to offset perceived and assessed impacts, including through Section 106 review process. And negotiate for tangible community benefits, such as through a community benefit agreement, offshore wind mitigation trust fund, or other economic development arrangements as our standard in offshore wind industry for impacted communities. So Nantucket is a little bit different. I think Nantucket does not have they have a select board, right? Yep. They have a select board. So it's very specifically an advisory work group that meets and consults as needed to assist town leadership, which I think is appropriately how we use advisory committees here, right? So I think I really like the part where we're looking at environmental, economic, and visual impacts, because there are more than one impact. To look at appropriate mitigation measures, so if there were to be proposals coming before us, that we would want to look at that, and then how to negotiate should something come in front of us, how do we negotiate benefits? I know that there are some people who want Westport to say, we do not want wind under any circumstance. and there's some people who are like, yes, we embrace wind in all its ways, shapes, and forms. It's my opinion that Westport doesn't need to take a specific position, but that we should be monitoring all of these things and looking out for the interests of Westport and all those things. So that's what I had. Now, Craig, I know I sent this to you in advance, so I don't know if you had a chance to have any thoughts about it, or...
Not a lot, but I think we probably would have less concern with aesthetics based upon what we're, I know that technically you could see something off in the distance, but it doesn't have the near presence issues that Nantucket has. But we may have other issues with respect to, in the event that there was an alternative transmission route. Right now, we are an alternative, not the proposed transmission route. Certainly, all of the responsibilities related to negotiating a host city agreement, a host town agreement with them would be things that would probably make our job easier if this committee could go out and look at host city agreements for offshore wind facilities and their transmission facilities, including substations and in our case, it wouldn't be a land taking, but in some cases it would involve land taking.
Plus, what triggers that 106, looking at it briefly, it's got to do with the historic preservation and whatnot.
So is there
I think it's a
something,
good start.
I mean, is it, so I gave my opinion that it should not be a anti-wind or pro-wind.
No,
It should be
it should be neutral.
advisory. But I just want to make sure that that's like the consensus of the board too, that we're not pro or con, we're advising.
And that would be my biggest concern, is that it should be a balanced committee in terms of community interest. And if it becomes an advocacy committee for or against or in a different direction, that we limit terms to one-year appointments and that we have the ability to vote on each appointee annually. So if the planning board designates somebody, by example, and I'm not trying to cast aspersions, that becomes an overly an advocate or disruptor,
Yeah,
that we could refuse their appointee.
yeah.
Because it's, I sometimes spend too much time on social media reading posts, and I try not to respond. But the reality is, this is a hot topic, and people are pretty passionate about this. And even there was a pretty good story, pretty level story done this week in New Bedford Light. And when you go through the comments section on it, it was deadly. I mean, people were calling each other names and stuff like that. So, I think we have to be very careful, because this is a very volatile topic right now.
I hadn't thought about the one-year appointment, but I agree with you, actually, because once someone's been appointed to a committee, they can't be removed. Or it's very difficult to remove someone from a committee once they've been appointed. So the one-year term kind of limits them, or at least gives someone who's being particularly problematic a way to not appoint them again.
Yeah.
Any other
So if we
thought?
added one at large, it would be 9. You had mentioned a couple, but.
I
we only
actually
have
think
one.
this should be, like, I'm on the Climate Resilience Committee, which feels like way too many people on it. It's actually really hard to get a quorum on a very large committee.
Right.
But I feel like this is one where we need a lot of different voices. And I like this one, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And I'm not sure the
At-large
one
would be
at
done.
large is enough, but like, I don't know. I don't know. What do you have thoughts? Like,
Well, like the gentleman said, maybe we'd have a problem filling a couple. We could try at 9 and then increase it if we needed to, but it's a start.
well, I know that
9's a lot of people.
9's a lot, and maybe some of these people, like maybe Finance Committee doesn't think they need to be on there. I
Right.
think they probably do, but,
can switch it.
like, what about Economic Development? You think Economic
Yeah,
Development should
Murray
be on?
already mentioned, because he's not electronics, a utility specialist, that he'd like to be involved, because he
No.
knows the numbers.
Now, the one on here that is not, so all of these are representatives from other town committees, right? So, but the one that isn't is the Westport River Watershed Alliance. So I actually think they're a valuable partner to participate in this conversation, but that one is not a town committee already. Do we have thoughts
They're
about
heavily
that?
involved, so.
Madam Chair?
Yeah.
I have no particular thoughts on that. That sounds good to me. I have another thought that I want
Go ahead.
to relay, and that is, first of all, there's 8 of these positions here.
Yeah, he was saying plus one at large.
Plus one at large would be
That's how we
9.
got to 9.
Yeah, I know. But what I'm going to recommend is, I don't see any need to have a select board member on this committee, because they're going to be advising the select board. And I don't think it's necessary. I think it's not necessary. And I'm not sure about the FinCom either. And then that would reduce this to 6. And then you could have, and I think we should have at least a couple of at-large members, I agree with you. So I would envision maybe 6 from committees and 3 at-large for a total of 9. I'm not really hung up on the number, but I do understand numbers that are too large are problematic, and you don't want to have it too small either. So that's my view on that. At-large members, we should have, let's say, at least a couple.
Madam Chair, well, generally, like we find out every week, it's good having a select person on because they report every week as liaison. Let us know what's going on and keep us up to date. They also a little more familiar with the rules, try to keep things under control. But, you know, I'm not up for this committee unless we were stuck, so it doesn't matter to me if it's a select person.
Well, I'm willing to serve as the select board member of the committee, but I think most of our committees do have, for that very reason, right? Because you have like a funnel into it. I don't know if anybody else
And
is
then if,
interested in
I
it.
didn't mean to cut you off, but if we have a legal question, we've got a direct line to Jim to see if it's worthy to dig deeper. So it usually works out pretty good if we represent it.
But I do, so we haven't heard from FinCom,
We have not.
so we don't know if they want to be on there or not. I think, I feel like this is the right group, but I feel like it's, like, I hear you. I'd rather have, I don't know. I like the smaller committee,
Like I
but I
said.
don't know who to leave out, you know?
Well, maybe we just start at the 9 and see if these other boards do send somebody.
So
This
what,
planning board's spread out too. All of those members are on different committees, so.
so why don't we, maybe what we do is we start out with these 9, and then the 9 being the ones we mentioned plus 1 at large. And then, we're not appointing anybody tonight, so if any of these boards don't want to send somebody or don't think it's necessarily, then we'll make that an at-large position. And then if we get a bunch of at-large applicants, maybe we'll talk to about, because, I mean, he has a point, we do sometimes have a hard time getting people to fill slots.
Yep.
But in this case, though, because so many of the members are already serving on committees, it's like the same people over and over. I think at-large is important because you might get different voices that aren't on these other committees.
Yeah.
All right, so I think I think what I would like, well, we're gonna have some, because I'm sure the public wants to talk about some of this. So I think what I would like to propose is that we form a committee with 1-year terms with this representation, that we give them this Nantucket model as a guideline, of what we're asking them to do, but then have them come back, once they form the committee, have them come back and maybe re-suggest their mission or something.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind assisting you with writing the committee charge. I don't think it would be, I don't think I'm interested in serving at this time.
Okay.
For, yeah.
And people, like, I mean, they're open meetings. The reason you form a committee is so that you're having an open meeting in public. I'll let you talk a bit. So you have an open meeting in public, right? So people who aren't on the committee can still participate, right? So, so I would like to propose that we start with this charge as the model and then ask them to come up with their own guidance. Okay. Anything else from the board before we go to the public? Go ahead.
I would have to agree that I'd be in favor of forming a committee. I wouldn't, again, I got too much going, I wouldn't want to be involved in it, but for or against offshore wind, I mean, basically, it's there. I mean, whether they land here or not, this situation that just happened, and
Yeah.
you know, Steve was down there with the news, so that's kind of the reason, and it can keep the selectmen abreast of what's happening. And if the proposals come through, I mean, that's my concern, if they do hit landfall in Westport, and then we can deal with that under the infrastructure type of stuff, so.
Yeah, no, I agree. Oh, we didn't put infrastructure committee on here, but do you feel we're probably pretty well represented?
Yeah, I mean,
with that
most of
group.
us are on economic development too, so I think it fit economic development better.
Okay, anything else from the board?
Madam Chair, Christopher Thrasher, Drift Road. I rise with grave concern when the direction this conversation is taken. I have a serious concern with creating a committee without a charge up front by the select board. And when I see the charge that you're referring to for the town of Nantucket, and I see the words perceived impact, what is on the desk right there is not a perceived impact. That is a real impact that is happening right now on our beaches, on our shores. God only knows what effect it's having on our fishery stock. This is a real tangible thing that is happening right now. The last thing I want to see this select board do is create a committee made up almost exclusively, yes, one at-large member, but still made up exclusively of members on other committees without adding more individuals at large and tasking that committee to come up with their charge. And if that charge ends up being just talking about a host agreement that may or may not happen if there's ever a chance to land a cable here, that's just not good enough. To be perfectly frank, that is a real impact. This is happening today. It's happening right now. And I challenge the select board here to stand up and make a real determination of what you want this type of committee to do, how you want to approach this in the future, and also, here's a question. I've seen it written, Madam Chair, you had a comment that that if the state decided to land offshore wind cables at Horseneck Beach, there's very little the town could do because the state controls all the easements on Route 88. And again, to be perfectly frank, that's not good enough. I want to see a select board that will stand up to the state. We were sold a bill of goods telling us that offshore wind would be a boon to our economy and it would be a catalyst for environmental change to help our environment. And very clearly, when it's affecting our fishing industry and clearly affecting our environment, everything that has been promised to us thus far by the offshore wind industry the effects have actually been the exact opposite. And I challenge the select board to get serious about this because this is happening right now and it needs to be addressed right now, not a committee just that's tasked with making up their own charge. So I urge you all to reconsider your trajectory on this committee. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. So as I mentioned before, we did not posted to take a position for or against offshore wind. We're just talking about whether we create this committee. So I actually think that the point of having a more well-crafted charge, I'll get to you, the point of having a more well-crafted charge, like Craig was saying, is that maybe Craig and I, or you guys can all, maybe what Craig and I should do is take this as a starting point plus any of the input that you're giving us on, if there's anything, please take out this or subtract that. Maybe what we should do is Craig and I should go back and work on a more specific charge for the committee and wait until the next meeting to actually form the committee. And we could, by that point, get some more input from the public. We'd have a more specific charge to the committee that we could to start with, and then we could get more input from the public and from these other boards about whether they wanted to participate. I do want to be clear, the town administrator's in contact with Vineyard Wind right now, okay? So I would like to get him some help and some backup so that he has many hats that he wears, and it would be great if we had committee chair or somebody who could also be communicating with these wind companies to take some of the load off of Jim. So no one is ignoring anything. But I do think there's a solid point there that a more specific charge going into the committee might be a good idea. Go ahead.
Well, I think one of the charges should be how the offshore wind industry mitigates issues like this. And
Yeah, it says
what are they
determine
gonna do?
appropriate mitigation measures is right in here.
It's definitely a perceived
that's
function.
perceived or assessed impact. I
Yeah.
think that's right in there. Craig?
I'll make a motion. I make a motion that we approve in concept the establishment of offshore wind advisory committee, subject to members of the board coming back at a future meeting with a charge for such committee.
Second.
Okay,
And what that would mean is it would give the public the opportunity, after a few of us have had a chance to put our heads together, get some feedback and look at other communities, because Nantucket is probably not the only community that's doing this, and then come back with a charge that fits Westport's situation better. And then at that time, the public can comment and provide input on that charge, as opposed to trying to draft the charge in the course of a discussion.
I think that's good, yeah.
Well, no, so yeah, just when, thank you.
That was a motion.
Yeah, it was seconded. This is the
Okay.
discussion.
Okay.
Oh, wait, sorry, I should have allowed open discussion for the select board before the public. Does anybody want to discuss that motion? Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so, no, thank you for that. If having a charge first, right, that's my understanding now. So the vote is not about creating a committee, now it's more about, let's have a charge and then come back later to create the committee. Is that, did I understand that?
No, we're creating the committee, but
Tonight.
we're coming back at ideally the next meeting with a charge for that committee.
So why can't we create the charge before creating the committee? Like, so meaning like talking to.
We're creating the committee, but we're not appointing anyone to the committee.
But
Because,
I guess it's putting, like, I'm just procedurally, like, is it required that a committee be, like, that the board says, okay, we appoint a committee, and then in 2 weeks, you know, we're gonna talk to different organizations and how they're dealing, because, you know, there's a committee in Nantucket, so it'd be nice to see, well, what is it that the committee, and you know, more than just the Google search, having those conversations of how they interact with the Board of Selectmen, and what's the expected results that, in terms of advice, as a board, like, what kind of advice are we looking for? So to me, it's like, do we put the cart before the horse? I'm not saying, like, don't do a committee, but it seems that we're doing some, like, it's, I don't know, the item, it seems to me that create the context and give the compelling, this is a compelling evidence, yeah, we might need something, you know, like this, but the charge should be coming first, and then item G comes later.
So I'm gonna address that first, and then I'll let you address it.
Yeah.
So we can create a committee without charging them with anything. In fact, most of the committees here in Westport are created with very little, right? The challenge in the way that committees work is our 5 board members cannot speak in a quorum, right? So Craig and I can talk, but I can't talk to any of the other ones about that same topic. You cannot have 3 people in on the same topic. So what Craig is proposing is we have had a discussion in public with the opportunity to express, hey, maybe think about that, hey, maybe think about that. So now 2 of us, or 1 of us, but 2 of us can go off and craft a better committees, or a better charter, right? Okay. So in order to get the input from a diverse number, from a group of people, the only way to do it is to have a meeting like this that's a little messy, where we're getting the input from all the people. So I'm gonna also let you say.
I think you were agreeing with us, but.
Yeah, well, I'm agreeing,
But
it was like
basically, what we're
procedurally.
saying is,
Yeah.
we know we need to do this. We've heard enough concern or interest in doing this. We don't even have a mechanism. Right now, Vineyard Wind comes in and knocks on Jim's door and wants to talk to him. We'd like to have a formal mechanism where we could communicate with offshore wind developers or any other parties in this situation. We don't have that right now, except coming into one of our meetings. So that's point 1. Point number 2 is we're going to be appointing people, and today what we're doing is we've given a laundry list of entities within the town we want to appoint people. But as you can see, only 1 person has been selected by those entities. So, because if I was one of those committees, and some of them aren't going to be talking about them for another month, is they should have more information from us about what they're asking members of their committee to do, because they're already serving the town. And in some cases, some of those same people will be on 1 or 2 other town committees in addition to the one they're representing. And so in this area, give them some information so they know what it entails and what their responsibilities are. And based upon where we are now, we can't do that.
Okay, well, I guess it makes sense.
Constance?
Yeah, I have a question procedurally in a way. So Craig, you used to lobby for Bay State Wind, correct?
I was an employee of Bay State Wind 7 years ago, yes.
7 years ago. And so it's been a full 7 years since you had any connection with any
Is this relevant?
offshore wind company? There's no conflict of interest here.
No, as a matter of fact, if anything, it would be the other way around. Vineyard Wind won the contract that Bay State Wind applied for in 2000. Well, the contract awarded to Vineyard Wind was in the summer of 2018, so it's been 6 years.
And so you're not connected with offshore wind at all at this point? Okay. Thank you. I just want to reiterate, I was the one that suggested over a year ago that the town have some sort of committee to deal with all the issues that were going to be confronting us at some point with offshore wind. And that was right after I had read the entire construction operation plan for the Vineyard Wind Northeast project, which Westport is very, very much front and center in that. And so that I immediately said, are we going to be able to discuss this in public? So the whole point of, one of the major points of this committee is to get discussions between our town manager and the wind company and Vineyard Wind out from behind closed doors and into the public, where everyone that is interested in this subject, yay or nay, has a chance to come to the meetings. I have said it, I have written you 3 letters now. I want to serve on this committee. I have a wealth of information. I have been studying this subject for 3.5 years, pretty much nonstop. I don't think you're going to be able to find many people that are neutral about this subject. And I agree, I mean, people are for it or against it, and those people that are completely neutral just don't know anything. And so it doesn't seem like they'd be the best people to serve on a committee. Anyway, I hope that you will appoint me to this committee. I know that I can bring a lot to it. I have a lot of resources, and I agree completely with your primary statement, which is it's not a committee about should there be offshore wind or should there not be offshore wind. It's a committee about how does this impact Westport and what all do we need to be aware of across the board, yay or nay, from all different sources, about the marine environment, about fisheries, shellfish, what's going on right off of our coast. Right now, I know that it's been reported that a lot of people are hearing pounding, and I think it's pretty sure that it is from putting in, they're installing the wind turbine foundations for Ørsted for Revolution Wind right now. And we've got a lot of people that are saying, what is that pounding? So, people just don't know. And it would be good to be able to let people know, to keep people informed what's going on. And Craig, the closest of those turbines, Revolution Wind, and they're going to be close to 900 feet tall, are 15 miles from Horseneck. So that we will definitely see those. I mean, that will definitely impact. But so I agree with you. This needs to be just look at the issue from every way we can to keep the town informed, to be ready should anything else happen, that we're not just like picking up wind turbine blade debris on the beach and people are going, what is this? So thank you for deciding to finally create this committee. I'm very grateful. I know a lot of people are. And
thank you, Constance. All right, anything else on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's unanimous. All right. So we'll be talking about that at a future meeting too. Next item on the agenda is a request from Michael Burris to approve the letters of support for the South Coast Bikeway Alliance and Westport Bike Walking Path Committee, Cross Westport Shared Use Trail Northern Route. I think we have visual aids for the, yeah,
rid of that stuff.
Constance, can we
Move the
move
visual.
this?
Yes, I'll take the.
Did you call all that in, Constance?
You're supposed to call Vineyard Wind,
So they
the
can
number
keep
on the
track of all the
Yeah,
website.
but they're, what are they going to do? Are they going to come to my house and pick it up?
Well, at least we'll
Pizza delivery?
at least let them know it's in our town to begin with.
Well, I know that they've been picking up a lot of this on Baker's Beach too. This is just from a couple, 2 or 3 night walks, so there's a lot of it out there. And, but be careful about the fiberglass.
Come on, Gail.
Let's-
Yeah, can you sweep that into the bounds? That's all we need is somebody to get a fiberglass in.
Visual aids.
Wow, you have like
Wow, good
big
backup.
visual aids. Do we have,
Are these the same ones that you sent?
Today. Well, I updated it. I don't know if it got updated, but I gave it to her at round.
Yes.
what is this?
Are they all
This is-
different or the same?
Updated it.
After?
I did, but I can refer my set if it's different. It's not that different.
Okay,
Yeah.
we have this in our packet, right?
yes.
Yeah, we
But she's saying there's some minor changes.
Yeah, some clarifications that we'll talk about, so you don't necessarily have to. So, hi, everybody. I'm Gail Rodricks, Westport Bike Walking Path Committee, also representing Westport for South Coast Bikeway, and this is...
Hi, I'm Sandra Medeiros. I'm the president of the South Coast Bikeway Alliance and also a member of the Dartmouth Pathways Committee.
Okay, I'm going to start our timing. All right, so this is the South Coast Bikeway Alliance Northern Route. It is behind you.
No, we have it over here too.
Oh, good. And we've been working on this for over a decade to promote development, bikeways, trails, outdoor activities in town. We will move to the next slide here. This is one of our Westport Bike Walking Path Committee's wins. This Mass Trail grant we received in May. And it's an application that was submitted by the town planner. We support our other town departments, committees, including the Board of Selectmen, thank you, Planning Board, thank you, and the Bike Committee. So we received $65,906 from the Mass Department of Conservation. And it's for preliminary route engineering for the Westport-Quequechan Trail Connector. This grant also includes local match of $10,000, which $5,000 came from the South Coast Bikeway Alliance, and in addition to in-kind service. This project extends the current end of Quequechan Trail to Fall River Westport line to a safe cross route in Route 6. And now I'm going to pass it to Sandy.
Can we just, you did a pretty good job, but just so people know, it's the
Yeah.
path along Watuppa that goes near the Old LePage's
By
restaurant.
White's.
And goes through all, by White's, and goes through all of Summer
Yes, thank you for that. Thank you.
So like Gail said, we've been working on this for about a dozen years. The South Coast Bikeway is a nonprofit organization dedicated to complete the 50-mile proposed network of bike paths, preferably a separate and divided bike path, bike lanes and sharrows, connecting the Rhode Island border to Cape Cod.
And then Sandy, you're going to keep going till slide 8.
Sure. So this image here shows the Westport portion. It's 2.1 miles. It starts, like Steve said, at the Watuppa Connector, so at the terminus of the Quequechan River Rail Trail. It'll go to Route 6 and then cross Sanford Road, Old Bedford Road, and connect to Dartmouth at Highland Avenue. In order to advance this idea of connecting the three communities, we didn't have a way to connect Fall River to New Bedford. There were several options. There's 4 options. So we wanted to figure out how we could go about doing that. And I'm going to jump right down to this slide here. So we had a feasibility study that analyzed the 4 options. Oh, are you moving the slides? Could you move that one to this?
I think, is
No.
Jim moving?
Jim.
I think Jim
I'm
is.
sorry.
Oh, Jim, I'm prepped for my spot here, but she's on this one.
I jumped ahead.
Yep, I think we're there.
Okay.
So we have the South Coast Bikeway Alliance with Serped decided to do a feasibility study. We approached the communities of Westport, New Bedford, and Dartmouth. We applied for $10,000 of CPC funds in each community, which allowed us to hire Serped to do Phase 1. Phase 1 gave us existing conditions of the 4 possible routes noted there in the different colors. The lower route, the complementary southern route, the blue route is Route 6, the brown route is the rail route, and the purple or magenta is the northern route. The orange route is longer in distance and less expensive to build, but you would not have a protected pathway. You would be sharing the road with the vehicles. The Route 6 route, the blue route, Mass DOT is dedicated to adding bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure along Route 6, but it will never have the comfort level of a separate and divided pathway elsewhere in the community. The rail route through the center of our communities is still active, unlike Fairhaven and Mattapoisett and Marion, which had the advantage of having a retired rail bed. We don't have that advantage. So the feasibility study analyzed, the second phase analyzed all 4 routes, and it was determined that the northernmost route was the preferred route. There are 2 sections there. You see the uppermost section, that was actually an initial idea to go in the woods through protected properties. But at this point, we're asking for support for the Old Fall River, Old Bedford, Sanford Road route. And it would be a separate shared use path as shown in those images.
So now I'm going to pipe back in.
Yep.
Northern Scenic Route Further Study. These are conceptual drawings from the Northern Scenic Greenway, funded by the grant from Bay Coast Bank. The bid is awarded from Goody Landscape Studio, and the plan is in Westport, Old Bedford Road, Dartmouth, Old Fall River Road, and New Bedford, New Plainfield Road, which some of you might know with the rail coming down, that's a transportation overlay project. We're just going to show the 3 in Westport. So this one is number 1, Sanford Road, which is north of Route 6. There is, this drawing illustrates how a shared use path could be created along Sanford Road. Existing conditions are above conceptually in the image, the white image above. An 8-foot shared use path is featured on one side of the road with travel lanes staying at the same size and placement. So we have 3 concepts. We picked the concepts that people would identify as unsafe areas. So this is one. Number 2 is the Westport Old Bedford south of the 95 pass. That, if you recognize, Old Bedford Road is coming out behind White's. And this is the intersection illustrating the right, it goes to the right side now because of the 195 exit. So those people are going 65 and we're going to be coming to a stop. So we wanted the bike riders to be on the other side. And then the last one in Westport is the Old Bedford Road. This is the bend. So you might recognize in Old Bedford and you go up to, on your way to Blossom. And this is, again, one of the areas that they identified. And this bike path is 5 feet one way, east and west, and then 5 feet west. This is some supporting documents that I identified to support that, and I just lost time of my time.
Go ahead and keep going.
I'll just keep going, I'll find it later. So we're considering for the supporting documents, Westport Complete Streets. So Westport has a complete street priority plan, and 4 of those priorities are in the northern section with its own funding. So it's a little confusing, but I want to be clear about the funding possibilities. And that would be separate with complete streets. I identified some master plan items that the town was looking to explore, linking higher density uses in Route 6 with preservation of farmland and conservation in other areas. And that was the update, but in 2016, the master plan, there was a need to engage regionally in decision-making, working with SERPED. And then I'm going to the next slide here. The crashes. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't finish about the crashes. So one of the maps was crashes, and the benefits here for the bike in Westport would provide safe crossings on Route 6. And then, so the next one is Northern Greenway Takeaway. A bike path would offer safe connections to rural areas, propose higher densities along Route 6. Safe crossings could be added as its currently high crash intersection at Sanford Road and continued to Old Bedford. And then I just gave some highlights, bullet points about what these key benefits are: safe crossing, access to hotels, recreation opportunities, connection to employers. And these benefits together would make a significant improvement in the town's infrastructure, enhancing connectivity, quality of life to the residents. And then I think it goes back to you, Sandy, now.
So the whole idea is to connect our communities with safe pathways for people to enjoy, for recreation, for employment, transportation, and exercise. So this map here shows where people ride now in this area with a heat map generated by GPS data. So the green colored areas show where people currently ride. So people are currently riding in the north and also down in the south. Nobody rides along Route 6 because it's not safe. So we're proposing a 14-mile path. Dartmouth section will be 5.4 miles. Westport will be 2.1, and then the remaining in New Bedford. This pathway will connect you to a lot of recreational opportunities. The natural lands from the Bioreserve to DNRT properties, Westport Land Trust properties. For transportation, you could get to the South Coast Rail Station at Church Street at the New Bedford end. You could get to employers on Fons Corner Road and Route 6 near the UMass Dartmouth facility. So it has a lot of opportunity. And it also, bike paths, if you're not aware, are very good for the economy. People do travel to different cities for vacations. I just came back from the Erie Canal Trail, and that's what people do. They go for a trip, they take their bikes, they ride for miles, they eat, they stay overnight, and they shop.
3 minutes.
So
And
this
then I'll
would
do
be-
the last, I'll do the ask.
So we did receive support in Dartmouth recently from the Select Board. So they've voted to endorse the Northern Scenic Greenway as our preferred route through Dartmouth, and they've also given us permission to further study it. So we're asking today also for that endorsement. New Bedford is focused on a lot of pathways in their community, primarily north and south, but this route will connect to their north and south networks. As soon as we get to Kings Highway is being redeveloped for the South Coast Rail, and then there's Mount Pleasant Street. So there's a lot of opportunity in New Bedford. They're doing wonderful things.
I think you're going to do this one, and I'll do the ask.
Oh,
So
this is-
17.
No, I did that one.
Oh, you did it? Oh, wow. Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I don't know. it's
She was,
just-
she got ahead of.
She
Yes, I
did,
did.
okay. So this is the last, where, what the ask is. We're asking, please support development of a preliminary design. A regional approach would be ideal. Don't let the ideal stand in the way of possible. And I just wanted to wrap it up with this. We didn't expect Route 88, which is a state road, with normal regulations, no bikes, no horses, no pedestrians, but yet it became our first path in our town. So anything's possible. And Westport section would be immediate benefit to users as a standalone, encourage neighboring projects, bring people to our town, and commerce. And I'm very passionate about the Hotel White's and getting bike groups coming and staying there, and then going to New Bedford and stay at their site there, and then going to Wareham and meandering through the town. So that's my hope about White's. Sandy, you're going to finish this. Because I think you know a little bit more about that.
This one here?
Is there another
Yeah,
slide?
the fun, yeah, the last northern, yeah, finally. Yeah, that's
Right,
it.
so we're hoping to apply for a further study of the entire route, but like Gail said, section by section works as well. So we're looking for your support to endorse the northern route, and then Gail and her committee will go back and ask for support from the CPC. Mass Trails grants require a 20% match. To study the entire corridor, it's $250,000 to $300,000, so that's $50,000 to $60,000 in match. The South Coast Bikeway is raising funds. We've raised funds before. We've already dedicated the $5,000 for the previous study, and we've also offered assistance to Dartmouth. We have a Pedal for the Path ride coming up in September on the 8th. And we are, it's a free ride, but we do accept donations.
And it's
So
going through Dartmouth Heritage.
It will be following the new Dartmouth Heritage Bicycle route, which connects, it's not an on-road path, it is a bicycle route that you would follow, but connecting the 10 villages in Dartmouth. But it's something that people will do for enjoyment and learn about their town and where they live. And the same can be said for a pathway in Westport. So we ask for your support.
And we're available for questions.
And specifically, what you're asking for tonight is that we approve letters of support for this grant, right?
Yeah.
So you're not asking us for money right now, you're
No,
asking us to
and Mike-
support the grant.
I think Mike's supplied it.
Yeah, we
for
have,
this
we
and
have
stuff.
that, yeah.
Thank you.
So we have a letter of support for the Westport and also one for Dartmouth.
Oh.
They were
for-
both.
Oh, I forgot they were both.
For
Okay.
CPC funding.
Okay.
And we are looking at larger grant sources. ATIP is a new one, the Active Transportation Infrastructure Program. But we're looking at a much broader, greater region with multiple metropolitan planning agencies applying.
And we really feel a lot of this can be done through those grants and not really coming to the town very often to try to tap into things. There's a lot out there.
So you're involved, did anything you want to add?
Yeah, so we've been chipping away, like they said, for years. And obviously, if we do the infrastructure improvements, at least in the first section of, from the town line up, this is important while they got the road apart, that we can move things forward. If the board supports it to go forward with the preliminary, obviously, we need to have neighborhood meetings, so people know if we're going to be widening the road in front of their place, it could directly impact them, and we want to have, obviously, get that out there. But I think the conceptual plans are great to keep things going. I haven't talked to LaFrancis lately, but they were supporting us right along. Because again, like Gail said, it could be some good comments for them. Some of the other routes they mentioned, besides an active trail, we're a little concerned with the safety. This is probably the best route by going up Old Bedford, and even if they come down Sanford, it's a lot safer than going through the woods, which a couple of the paths were, and it was a concern. Obviously, this isn't on a fast track when we still got to dump onto Route 6. It's got to be part of infrastructure improvements because we have no lane at all when you get across the corner at White's, and that's what's been the delay for years. So,
And we do have a tip project too. with,
Yeah.
So
Which
the-
would be the safe.
So is the recommended route that you're doing the feasibility or the funding study on connect to the Wampanoag Trail?
What, you mean Watuppa?
Yes.
Yes, the
Yes,
Watuppa.
it starts
And
at the
That's the one that ends at,
White's.
LePage's.
Coopershan comes over to
LePage.
the
They have a map, they have a map.
Yes. just-
LePage's.
LePage's,
just past
yes.
Behind the
LePage's.
UMass building.
Correct.
Yes.
Right.
Coopershan connects to that.
Right.
comes across,
Okay.
yes.
And then Fall River did another 1,000 feet to extend to Westport Line, and then this is the Mass Trail Grant, Westport Line to Route 6
Yeah, I-
Bedford.
out around White's, and then on Lincoln.
They put the pressure on us because now they went right to our town line, whereas before it was
Yeah.
100 or 200 feet down. Now they're right to the line saying, you know. But the good part about waiting so long is now we're more apt to get grants and whatnot, so we don't have to pay for as much.
And if I could add, Gail mentioned this, but I just want to make sure you got it, that with all these drawings, they were done with information that was gathered from SERPED, GIS studies. We maintained the center line for cost effectiveness, and it was determined that this pathway, a separate and divided shared use path, could fit without encroaching
In the right of way.
outside.
Yeah.
It's within the right of way. So minimal issues there, if any at all. And the second, this follow-up study is going to do a flyover first. We have an engineer on your committee,
Yes.
and he said just the Dartmouth portion, if my figures are right, was like 65,000 for the flyover. And that would get more detailed analysis of the existing conditions and the road widths to really lock in whether it's feasible. If there's some reason that the path has to be, on the other side of the road because of utility poles or natural barrier, that would determine it. And then from there, after outlaying that amount of money in that study, then we would go further. So
But
it's
in
actually a
Westport-
two-step process.
In Westport, it's not the trouble that, with the stuff in Dartmouth about moving it from side to side. So,
So I would move we support the preliminary and endorse going forward. This isn't locking us into anything, it's moving
Yes.
forward and getting the, more toward a shovel-ready project.
Second.
All right, so a motion and a second to approve the letters of support for the Bikeway Alliance and the Westport Walking Path Shared Use Trail Northern Route.
it's a mouthful.
All right, anything else, any other conversation? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's unanimous.
Thank you.
For the work you're doing.
We got a lot of passion in this.
Yes, thank you.
Just you.
It's all on our website. You want to learn more?
Yeah, we'll put the link, we'll bug Paula to put the link up there.
Yeah. And, September 8th.
Yeah.
Working on a bike committee, we've got room for one more.
September 8th, the same day as the other.
It is the same day as.
Oh, boy, and they told us, they promised us no traffic around town, okay,
We're just in Dartmouth.
okay.
Okay, we have a request from Chris Gonzalez, the highway surveyor, to approve Chapter 90 contract award and notice to proceed to Pawtucket Hot Mix Asphalt, Inc., 25 Concord Street, Pawtucket, Rhode Island. Jim?
Yeah, this is the yearly contract from Chapter 90 funds that come down from the state. They went out to bid, and Pawtucket Hot Mix Asphalt was the lowest qualified bidder. So I'd recommend approval of the $916,000 contract.
I move that.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's unanimous. We have a request from Kristen Stinson, Town Clerk, to approve the warrant for the state primary election on September 3rd, 2024. November's getting a lot of attention, but there is an election September 3rd, 2024 for
Day
the
after Labor Day.
primaries. Day after Labor Day. So this is just a routine request for
I think he's
Kristen
got
to
the locations.
post it.
You got-
It's the normal locations, it's Our Lady of Grace and the normal
Yes, there's
places.
no changes.
No changes.
I'll move. I think we can move it, correct? Yeah, I moved it.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's unanimous. K, schedule, oh, you were right, it was on there, that wasn't on the version I have.
Huh?
I think K, was K on the posted version?
K is taken off. K was not on the posted version.
Okay, K was not on the posted version, the meeting, so we're gonna skip over that. That's where you saw it, though. You
I
must have
saw
seen
it
it on a
somewhere.
draft. K is, we're not doing K. Discussion 5A, review appraisals for pump station easements for 833 and 1115 State Road. You'll recall we had a meeting where we talked about possible eminent domain, and we directed town administrator to go forward with the appraisal process for those two pump stations. So you want to give us an update on that?
So these two pump stations are in the easterly portion of Route 6 between Route 88 and the Dartmouth Town Line. One is at 833 State Road and the other is 1115 State Road. We did, direction of the board, we went out for appraisals on these properties. The engineering work has been done. It was done as part of the original proposal that went along with the Route 6 infrastructure project, water and sewer. Those appraisals came in, 833 State Road, the total was $15,150. That's for the permanent easements, and there's a temporary construction easement as well. The temporary construction easement would be for 3 years only. At 1115 State Road, the permanent easement was $17,300. Temporary easement, $2,000, for a total of $19,300. Like you said, at the June 17th meeting of the Select Board, the board asked that we put these two pieces of property out for appraisals. Next step, if the board chooses, would be to put it on the agenda for an action item to start the land taking process by eminent domain.
So we had some very detailed documentation in our packets about this, like 67 pages or something. Did anybody have any questions or anything they wanted to check in on about the appraisals that you just talked about? No? Okay. All right, so that's all we had on that. If there's no questions, then I guess we're good. So that's what the appraisals were. 15,150 for 833 State Road, and 1115 State Road was 19,300. Okay,
Madam Chair,
yes.
I just, maybe this is out of curiosity, A and B seem to be related, at least in terms of 833 State Road.
So A is was just for us to get the update on what the appraisals were. B is a request from Attorney Glenn Mauck to discuss.
But there's no action on A.
There's no action. So there's nothing to do on A, we were just looking at it, unless you had questions or anything. Okay, so B, we have a request from Attorney Glenn Mauck to discuss possible eminent domain taking of 833 State Road. I do want to note that nobody has voted to use eminent domain, but that this was the reason that we did the appraisals, is in case that came up. Welcome. Could you please introduce yourselves?
Good evening. My name is Glenn Mock. I represent Lori Camara, sitting with me. Thank you for the opportunity to come in and talk with you about this. We're a little concerned. First, I would say is that Ms. Camara is not opposed to the sewer project, but it appears as though there has been a lot of thought put into where this pump chamber has been designed on her property, because we believe that there's another spot next door which would be more appropriate for the pump station, given that the property next door has got cell phone communication towers on top of it, and it's already burdened by this kind of heavy utility equipment. And moving it from this location on her property onto that property, I don't think is a big stretch in terms of engineering, because it's right next door, and it's in the same general area in terms of the topography and elevation. So from an impact point of view, it doesn't seem as though there was much consideration given to where it was sited. And then if beyond that, if there was some other consideration as far as not being able to be placed on that other property, which I'm not quite sure why there would be, but even so, on her property, rather than putting it up at the very front of the property, taking it up the area that she uses in the lease that she has for her tenant, that it seems as though the location for the pump chamber could be moved back further on the property, which would be less of an impact to her use of the commercial property. So that's essentially what we wanted to talk about with this board. As far as I know, there hadn't been before this any opportunity for Ms. Camara to come in and talk about this location or, and then given what occurred at the town meeting, she was under the impression that the whole project had been dropped. And then, was kind of notified, I think, sometime towards July that, oh, there's some appraisals going on, which didn't make a lot of sense to her, given what was voted on at the town meeting.
So the vote at town meeting was specifically whether to fund the project using a debt exclusion, and then there was some easement or some betterment conversation. So the project wasn't canceled. The project's never been canceled, but it is not funded. So there's no money to pay for it. I'm gonna defer to Steve on the Infrastructure Oversight Committee, but the Infrastructure Oversight Committee had recommended two eminent domain takings further up, not these that we talked about today, but two other ones that were further along in the process. We did appraisals, we did the review of them. These came up, these were not recommended from the Infrastructure Oversight Committee. I believe a board
Right,
member
we didn't go
suggested we
forward
talk
with that
about
yet.
this.
Right.
So a board member suggested we talked about this in a previous meeting, and this body agreed to move forward with the appraisal process. Now, do you know anything about why this particular location versus next door? Like, I'm not sure how that, do you know
I
how that
don't
was
think
decided?
we've looked at that, Jim, have we, with Kleinfelder, or?
We didn't review it in detail with the committee. Kleinfelder did assess different properties in that area.
Right.
And felt that this was the best location.
Here is two images from the street, and you can see that where the UPS vehicle is, that's Ms. Camara's property, and that's a pretty close location to where this pump chamber would go. And then almost adjacent to the other side of the building that's in, or the picture of the building that's in her property, you can see on the other side where the cell phone communications are, it's already burdened by these big towers.
Yeah.
So elevation-wise, there's some type of a stream that flows through that area. So whether you're 150 feet on one side, 150 feet on the other side, the topography's not that different. I think that it wouldn't work engineering-wise. And the fact that it's burdened by this utility seems to make more sense for me from an impact point of view. Now, obviously, that property owner might have some concerns about it, but their property's already impacted by a heavy utility-type application. So I don't quite understand, where's the justification for putting it on her property where it creates a larger impact than would be on this adjacent property.
Can you guys pass that around?
So kind of a follow-up to your mention about that the article was for the payment of the sewer system. As you read down through the article, and there's several provisions inside of it, it gets down to a section where it says, you have to read it in the context of the first part of it, where it says to vote to see if the town will approve, and then there's the money, and then there's several other items. And the one item says that the select board or sewer commission be authorized to acquire by gift, purchase, taking, or otherwise any lands or interests necessary for the construction of the greater Route 6 area water sewer system. So I understand the concept, the idea is that it voted down the funding, but I think it also pretty clearly voted down the taking of property associated with the project.
You could be right, I don't know.
So that being the case, I don't quite understand why there would be still movement going forward on the potential taking of this property.
Anybody
Went
wanna
out
take
of
that?
this time.
I wasn't, I
Yeah.
don't believe I was in favor of going forward. So
No.
somebody want to talk about that?
No, we just, you
So-
just went forward, well, we had the money to get the appraisals and whatnot.
Yeah, so we had funding available to do appraisals. Now, why we did appraisals on 833 and not whichever direction the other one is, I don't know. And Jim, you don't recall, like, how did we come up with these addresses? Somebody must have recommended them.
So it was based on design, right? They need to be at the lower points of Route 6 because the sewer's going to go gravity fed to these areas and they're going to be pumped up to a different location along Route 6. But Route 6 is fairly flat, so that I'm sure there's some leeway or design leeway to look at this property across the street or the abutting property. But when Kleinfelder went out, our engineering company that we hired, this was the property that they felt was in the best location based on the design.
So it sounds like if we were to move forward with the process, that we might want to, we'd want to consider alternate locations, right?
That's an option, yep.
That would be an option if we move forward.
And if you do that, I'd like to be involved in it, because in addition to being an attorney, I'm also a licensed engineer. So I'd like to see some of the information that they've developed to identify this particular location on her property as being more appropriate than another piece of property.
Is there, the Kleinfelder reports all on, like, where could someone find this?
I don't know, Jim or Manny, is that online? Any of it?
The plans are available, we can get the plans. I think I sent you some of the information, if not.
Yeah, I think this is a copy of the plan that you sent to me, you know, which shows basically from the stream on this side, but doesn't give us similar information, which I think would be useful to do a bit of an engineering analysis to make sure that it could almost be flipped to the other side and, you know, kind of confirm that as a feasible option.
Madam Chair?
Yep.
So, Glenn, so the North Westport Sewer and Water, that whole project from Fall River to Westport is what was paid for by the state and funded as Phase 1 sewer and water. And when the planning board was involved in that, Jimmy, I believe you were the one that, between you and Bob Dale, contacted Kleinfelder to do the design, contracted with Kleinfelder to do the design. After the design was all complete, one of the other pump station owners contacted me and said, hey, what's going on here? So at that point, the whole design is complete. I contact the town administrator and ask him, hey, because, you know, I thought, I was assuming that, you know, these owners were talked with by Kleinfeld, whoever was doing it. So I guess nobody was contacted. I've had another pump station owner recently in Phase 1 contact me.
Clarity, though, you're talking about the section that runs probably up to about 88?
No, that was some confusion on, and again, I wasn't involved in any of that. That was some of the Kleinfelder's report. They referred to Phase 1A, Phase C. There was a study that was done that I did have an opportunity to review because I was on the Master Plan Review Committee, and I saw it, and that's when I had found out that they, you know, this is already the third study saying that we need sewer and water down Route 6. And so again, like when I started hearing the concern, I had assumed that Kleinfeld had spoken to all of these. So I did get in on a meeting with Jimmy and Kleinfeld right after that first meeting, because I'm like, we also have other people in that area that are in favor of the sewer and water that wouldn't have a problem and probably a better location. So at that point, the meeting that I got involved in, and it's probably the only meeting on any of the design I was ever involved in, and we didn't really go over Lori's exact location, but Carlos's location I did, because one of the other members on the Infrastructure Oversight Committee owns a property across the street. There's another property that you're probably familiar with, right on the corner of Bauer Ave, that probably would have been a good location. So when I spoke with Kleinfeld, and like, you know, why can't we just move this? Well, I'm not sure, Jimmy, how much have we spent on the engineering design?
We spent over $1 million, maybe closer to $2 million on overall design work.
Okay, and by the time when I got involved, and I know, you know, I'm familiar with your work, and I know you work for the utility company, so they had already been to the point that the utility company has already designed the service to these pump stations. That's how, you know, that takes some time. That's how far along it's gone. So I was really kind of like surprised that no pump, you know, no property owners had been contacted prior to this design work. I mean, I get the town administrator, maybe the chair of the Infrastructure Oversight Committee might have a little better idea on that, but I don't know.
Well, I guess I question how far along the design really is, because Jim and I talked briefly, and he indicated that there was some survey data and some other things. I asked for that information, and it doesn't seem as though they're really that far along that they've gathered on-the-ground survey data. So if they don't have on-the-ground survey data on the parcel, there's no reason why they couldn't do it on the neighboring parcel. You know, and you know, this idea that distribution electric is available for powering the substation,
I do a tremendous amount of work for Eversource Energy on transmission electric. And while I don't work on distribution electric, the distribution electric's in the street. And whether they connect it in front of this building or that building, on top of the fact that I'm sure that there's a high amperage and voltage service that goes to this location with these antennas there, would make it even easier to get the kind of power that's going to be necessary for the pump station. So I guess I would like the opportunity to have a meeting with the engineers so we can review this before it goes too much further, and we can get some specific input on this.
So certainly, before it goes any further, it sounds like that we have a little bit more, that we need more information, because we want to be in cooperative situations with the neighbors, right? We don't want to be at odds with neighbors. So it sounds like before we did go any further, which there's no proposal right now that we're going any further, that we need to look at alternatives. So my recollection, though, is the reason that we voted on this in the first place because you asked for these addresses to be put on there. So it's possible maybe you just didn't realize which addresses when.
No, it's 100%. The other thing is, this project, the notice of intent, so as far as how far along the engineering is on the Route 6 Northwest Port Sewer and Water Project, it's 100% complete. It actually went out to bid, and we got a bid on it. Okay, but unfortunately, nobody in town has followed up on grant money to get it paid, and that's when they went to kind of prematurely try to go to town meeting to do a debt exclusion and do it. But the job has been fully, it went out to bid, it's fully designed, it's out to bid, and that's when I realized, when it was going out to bid, that's when I realized that they hadn't been contacted, none of the pump station people had been contacted.
And you know, with all due respect, the fact that they had gone that far with the design and hadn't contacted property owners, I think it's shame on them. And that shouldn't be held against my client.
I agree.
You know.
Jim?
So we had worked for years on the first section of Route 6 between Fall River Line and Route 88. We had met with the property owners for the two pump station locations a number of times. We discussed it a number of times. We got close, I think it was last January or February, and the project, for some people, changed. You know, I think there were different opinions, but we were looking at the first section, and then in January, we went from Route 6 to 88, all of a sudden from Route 6 to Dartmouth. So we had not had a lot of discussions. We didn't have any discussions preliminarily with those two property owners until we knew that we were doing the whole section. And as soon as that happened, we reached out to, well, I think Lori reached out to us, but she attended a number of meetings, and Carlos attended a couple of meetings as well. So as soon as we were aware that we were doing or going for funding for the whole project, they were involved in the process.
So right now, we don't have any action in front of us, right? So there's no action to proceed. There's, you know, but it's possible there could be, right? So I hear what you're saying, that if we go any further, that you want to be involved in the conversations that are going on. And I think that's totally fair. I think we would want to involve you. So I'm not sure if there's anything else that you'd like to discuss.
Well, I guess I just want to have a better understanding is if there's no intention to go forward at this point, the appraisal has been done. So beyond doing the appraisals, there's not going to be any further work done on these properties or, you know, action in terms of an order of taking or anything along those lines?
If there were going to be a further action, then we would have another meeting and we'd have to notify you and that kind of thing. You wouldn't, I mean, like, I don't know the notifications for all of these project plans, but certainly if there was going to be an order of taking, there would be notification to the.
So along those lines, there's going to be a tremendous amount more survey work that's going to be done. So perhaps before that's undertaken.
Madam Chair. So all the survey work's been done. Also, Jim, wasn't there a grant applied for this year for that section, the second section of sewer? Where do we stand with that?
It's a $5 million grant to the federal government that's been applied for, but I haven't heard back.
So what about our water bid that just went out?
So we have them later on the agenda. We do have, we did get the bid back for the Macomber Loop, and it's on the.
So I just have, I have a question for that, you know, Mr. Mark being an engineer will understand that. So that, again, this whole sewer project has gone out to bid, and it came in substantially lower than Kleinfeld's report, which it's the same thing has just happened with what we're calling the Macomber Loop. Well, the Macomber Loop, I don't know, maybe Steve, you can help me on this, but so you know, this PFAS grant money that was out there. So while we were in the process of this Route 6 sewer and water project, some public wells along Route 6 detected PFAS. So there was a grant that was applied for, and pretty much about the same time, I was in a meeting with, I think it was maybe Long-Term Building Committee, and the superintendent said something about the Macomber School. And, you know, we've got some other areas in town that the same situation's happening. And so that's kind of, I believe that's how the Macomber Loop came into play. But that went out to bid, what was it, Friday? When did that go out to
The
bid?
bids were open.
Open
These were
Friday.
open last week.
Okay, and so do we have something we're going to award that contract now?
No, but we got the results back in the
But
town.
that goes right by Lori's property. So one of my questions is, Jim, on that, so what did they use for plans to bid from where it ends on Route 6 to Washington Street,
They use the same plans, the same design work for that.
Westport Sewer and Water? So the water's already designed, the sewer's already designed. And unfortunately, the town of Westport is moving forward with the water before the sewer for whatever reasons. I mean, you've been in, you know, not as long as me, but normally you put sewer infrastructure in before you do water. There's also plans for Mass Highway. The culvert next to Lori's, they have design work. They're getting ready to move forward with stuff on Mass Highway. Mass Highway contacted me. We had an issue that you're involved in down with another property owner further on down the road. And when that was inundated with stormwater from Mass Highway, and I contacted Mass Highway, they told me they have a whole drainage design for Route 6 that they're looking to move forward with. So there's a lot more stuff coming on Route 6.
Okay.
So surely you're not disputing that should we move forward with the next step and what would be involved in the taking, that we should at least look at why this location and whether the location in close proximity might be better. Are you saying?
No,
certainly
I'm
we
definitely
should do
not.
that, right?
I mean, unfortunately, that it slipped through the, again, that would be, that would be the end.
So, right, so we're,
happens, he's gone.
Yeah.
so I think you're right. I think we need to evaluate whether there's another suitable location nearby, because certainly even if we chose your location, even if we decided there wasn't, that's information I think that the public should know before the government does a taking of land, right? That's a serious thing. So I think everybody here is like, okay, it seems reasonable. We don't do this on this scale, but like we do this with telephone lines, telephone poles all the time. We approve telephone poles, they say they want to put it here. The neighbor comes, says, hey, if you scooch it over a little bit, then we can put the driveway in here. And we're like, okay, let's go back. So I think this is just like a bigger scale of, hey, if you moved it a little bit over, is that possible? And that's what you're asking. I think that's fair. I think we all agree that that would be fair. We'd want that information before we did anything dramatic. So I'm going to ask, certainly we're required to advise you of certain things, of notifications of the butters, but if Jim and if the Infrastructure Oversight Committee can just be sure that you're contacted and things. I think that's what you're asking for now,
Yes.
which I think is fair.
Yeah, but we also wanted to make sure that it wasn't going forward without a little further discussion about this. And, you know, because there's a couple alternatives. It could possibly go on this other piece of property. And if there's a legitimate issue of why it can't go on the other property, it could possibly be put further back on Ms. Camare's property, in which case it wouldn't have as much of an impact and wouldn't change the design parameters that much, other than just repositioning the location for the pump chamber and the generator and the other facilities.
Very reasonable to evaluate those.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Do you have an idea when you think any of this might occur, so we can get an understanding of when we think we might be back to talk about this further, or?
We haven't even voted on the water yet. That's like Manny said, that's the first phase. And if we're gonna do any kind of taking like we're talking about, we'd probably take it to town meeting anyways. But right now, it's not in the foreseeable future. He's talking about a grant, but could happen.
Okay. Is it possible to get a copy of the materials that were submitted by the appraisal?
Yeah.
I think so, sure.
Yeah, I can give you,
Okay.
email you the whole appraisal.
Okay, I'd
Glenn,
appreciate that.
I think, Jim, could you possibly maybe get Glenn the whole CAD file on the project so he can see what the whole thing is, and maybe the contact from Kleinfeld, so you could, you know, because this is what I at that point, I mentioned, because when Mr. Ferrera had the same issue, I'm like, we got property owners nearby that would be a better location. It's the same thing with Lori. unfortunately, the town spent a large amount of money. Can it be moved? I'm sure, but it's, you know, I think some of the people believe that the sewer and water project's not gonna happen, so it's not a big problem. But it's all designed right now, and if there was some way that Westport, we weren't short that much money to finish it. We got the best bid we're gonna ever see. Just like this water, the water just came in way under what we got, and there's probably enough money to continue the water for the complete project that's designed right now with what we have now. We have a grant in that would take sewer in phase 2. We haven't asked for a grant for the phase 3.
But I'm not aware that the water creates any kind of problem for taking.
Again, I'm getting confused, and it's confusing to people too, because that's how the confusing. Phase 1, sewer and water in Westport, was from Fall River to Dartmouth. And then we came up with the idea, when looking at Kleinfeld's phasing in their study, I said, listen, we don't have the money, so we're gonna do contracts as we get the money. So it was never that, we're not gonna put the sewer all the way to the end of Route 6, to Dartmouth line. It's, we don't have the money to get there. And obviously, the voters voted that they don't want a tax increase to do it. So one of the other things on the water that's coming through right now, everybody needs to understand that it's coming down Route 6. They're gonna have curb stops put in front of their house. They don't have to tie in. They're not being charged the betterment, because it was all with grant money. And that's what the infrastructure and the planning board's trying to do with the sewer too, to get it in front of these residents that need it. And if they want to tie in, because, you know, we get in all these communities, they don't want to tie in. I said, but the other thing is, there's also a report.
I think we need to move on.
No, well, there's one more thing that's, you know, Mr. Mark's kind of an expert in this field too. So there was an environmental study that I did bring forth before all the selectmen that Mass Highway did on the groundwater contamination on Route 6. And I read it. I don't know if anybody else has read it, but I did present them all to at a town meeting. And in that study, it said that the groundwater is contaminated and it is migrating into the aquifer. So that's where our need is, to get this water main all the way down Route 6 by all these properties and these residences. And that will eliminate the public health threat.
All right.
Sure.
But we still have the environmental threat that we need to eliminate in the sewer.
And she appreciates that and is willing to work, just wants an opportunity to be heard.
Thank you.
One thing I just requested, can I get the plan and profiles as well for the designs? Because then that has the elevation information as well, not just plan view, but
I
also
can get you the
profiles.
bid packet.
Okay,
Okay, thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
So the next item is discussion for the use of the old high school and the site visit. So last week, we,
Excuse me, can I speak?
oh, yes, Stephen.
Okay, my name is Carlos Ferrer. I own
Yeah, at the microphone.
15 Stair Road. I'm in a situation as Laurie is. I don't have nothing against water and sewer going down Route 6, okay? My biggest concern, I spoke to Jimmy already about this, I spoke to many about it. My biggest concern, they want to put, I own 165 feet frontage. They want to take 30 feet, 35 feet, whatever it is, by 50. What's the limitation in Westport to build something on Westport on land? You let me know.
So you want to make sure that you're still in
My
compliance
question
with
is,
the frontage.
the frontage on the property in Westport is 150 feet frontage. You take 50 feet of my front, leaving me 115 feet. If I decide to put a big building in, what do? I don't have nothing against the sewer. You guys can take the sewer, ship it all the way back like she says, okay? What I see what they did, this designer, because I met with this appraiser. This appraiser went to my property with me, and I said, what do you want to put this? Why next to the telephone pole where the power is? Oh, it's 30-some feet this way by 50. Yeah, you guys all right? Take the front of my property away? Go in the back. Or go Emerald's boss, he's on the committee, right? Emerald's boss on the committee of the water and sewer. Go on the church across the street. They probably could use the money. That's my biggest concern. I mean, I want the same situation that you given to them when you send anything out.
Certainly.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's my biggest concern about this stuff. You want to put the water and sewer, right? But why want to put the water first when you have to dig the whole laneway and the sewer has to go deeper before you can put the... Does that make any sense? You run the water all the way to Washington Street and then I put the sewer? That don't make no sense. You're going to waste all kinds... Guys going to waste all kinds of money.
People don't want it either.
You guys going to make all kinds of money, waste that money doing that, going to do it twice.
We gotta work that all out, like
Okay?
People
You're
don't
right.
want,
There's
they
a
don't
lot
want
of
the
work
extra
that needs-
buildings, they don't want any of that right now.
There's a lot
They're
of
gonna
work
have-
to be
they're
done,
gonna have
and-
big meetings.
Yeah, and I think it's totally fair to want more information if there's suitable
Absolutely.
alternatives, yes. Sorry that I didn't call on you earlier. Okay, so the use of the old high school and the site visit. So we had a site visit, we were all there, we walked around, saw the place.
Just need to know what Ralph said.
So, and I think, I dug up, so I guess, first of all, anybody have any impressions from the site visit or anything that they wanted to
A
talk
little bit of
about?
work needed, but I would, depends on Ralph.
I think the whole thing has a lot of potential. It's just a matter of how much money is gonna be involved in the potential, right? So, we've talked a lot about, so I went and pulled up the slides. These are from Christopher's 3 slides, which we didn't print for everybody, but, from the Long-Term Building Committee's recommendation. So, the Long-Term Building Committee recommended that the select board take appropriate steps to immediately develop a strategic plan to renovate the old high school building for municipal use. Now, I completely agree with that and believe we should charge the Long-Term Building Committee with developing a strategic plan to renovate the high school for municipal use. So that's my opinion, we can talk about it. The next steps that they had, were evaluating all existing town buildings, so conducting an assessment of all the town-owned properties, evaluate the current condition, usage, potential future needs, and then create up-to-date renovation estimates, so the costs necessary for renovation, detailed costs for HVAC, electrical, et cetera, and assess the financial implications. And then their last step was prepare a debt exclusion ballot, should that be necessary. So it's my opinion, after having walked through the Long-Term Building Committee, that I think we should follow their recommendations. I think we should develop a plan, which would include evaluating the town buildings and creating an up-to-date renovation estimate. I also believe that we would need, like you had just kind of said, what did Ralph think? I think we need input from the code compliance officer, KP Law, and our insurance representative before we moved forward. So in addition to these things, I would add code compliance, legal, and insurance.
Well, I would say we can't give them the charge until Ralph says it's feasible. We're not gonna have them working and Ralph says you can't do it.
Well, so what I believe, so my understanding is that the code compliance officer wouldn't tell you yes or no, you can do this. They would tell you, if you do this, you have to meet these codes, or no, you don't have to meet these codes. So it's not whether you go forward or not, but it would probably significantly impact the price tag.
Right, because he's gonna say if it's a change of use where they gotta bring up different codes and use of the facilities, that's all.
So, go ahead.
There lies the crux of the situation, is can we do something similar to what you suggested on exploring the uses that would prevent us from getting into a full change of use situation?
So you might be right. Maybe the first step is code compliance.
Get the answer
weighing
from
in.
Ralph.
The code compliance issue, and what are the parameters if or when we violate the current change of use?
So my understanding is that Ralph defers large building decisions to someone other than himself. Is that true?
Yeah, he usually gets in fact, he always gets a code compliance company to come in and tell him what upgrades have to be made. When you get into the larger buildings, it gets very complicated as far as triggers that, items that can trigger the additional work.
Right, so it wouldn't be Ralph, it would be a
There's a number of
Whatever we're
laws
gonna do to go
officer.
forward, is that gonna cost us money, obviously?
We have a code compliance report already, based on a change in use of the building, moving all municipal offices over there, and I believe the Council on Aging. We don't have a specific code compliance report based on moving one office over, or two office over,
Or the annex.
or the annex.
Yeah, the annex.
Because I think if you're gonna be looking at code compliance and what we're doing at the annex, maybe, the annex building, the old Earl School, they did exactly the same thing, turned it into a municipal building, what we're trying to do with the high school. So I think if we're gonna do an evaluation of the old high school, we need to do an evaluation of the annex in this building.
Well, okay, so that's two different things though. So the one thing is would we trigger code compliance, significant costs associated with code compliance if we move municipal offices to the old high school, right? So that's one question is, if we move town hall to the high school, does that trigger, what required changes would we have to make or not? Maybe we don't, maybe it's not a change of use because it's still municipal government, right? So that's a pretty big question about the code compliance issue, about whether we're gonna trigger that if we move. And I think that's one question. Now, evaluating the other buildings, that we're not changing use of these other buildings yet, but we might if we move over there, right? So I think if we were gonna go through costs associated with moving, you're right, I think we do need to evaluate, which was why I was in here, evaluate all existing town buildings. I think that's necessary. But I'm kind of liking what you just said, like, maybe we need that code question first. Like, are we gonna trigger code changes that are, or what would they be? Because I think that matters a lot to how much work we make this committee do just to find that out.
We're getting to the point where the building's starting to show lack of use. You saw it in some of the rooms, you see it in the auditorium, and people wanna use the auditorium, but the AC isn't on all summer, and that controls the humidity. So that's why we need to figure out what he wants to do, because we need to know what we're gonna do with that building. It's gonna turn into, you know, a lot more expense if we don't do something soon.
Well, I know you two are on the committee, but what do you think about that, getting the code compliance way, and is it the right time to do that?
Well,
Your name.
I mean, one of the things that we walked
Yeah,
through is we had offices that were just recently changed into classrooms when they had the problem with the middle school. So, I mean, those are existing offices over there. They just converted them and use them as classrooms. I mean, the amount of space that we're looking to immediately use, like moving the building department in there, that could facilitate this whole move over the next few years, coming out of the annex, the square footage, I think they could coincide with the school committee and the admin over there. There's enough offices of that. You get that, as soon as you walk into the entrance, the nurses station. I mean, the issues that they have at the annex with her meeting patients there. I mean, that room looks like it's ready to go.
So I think from my perspective, I wouldn't approve anybody moving anything until the code compliance officer weighed in on whether we would trigger code changes or not. Our attorneys weigh in on whether they think we would be violating, and our insurance company would insure it, because I would hate to be in a situation where we move there and then something happens and now insurance is like, we didn't know you were doing that. Like, we can't move anybody in there without knowing those three things, and probably more. Even if you're gonna move in rapidly and you didn't have to do a single other thing, you still need to know, I would need that to approve it. So you have valuable information.
Perhaps.
Sorry, I'm sorry, wait, I got the board first, go ahead.
Yeah, not to cut off Mr. Thrasher, but there's another component to this too, and that's the town meeting empowered the select board to spend $200,000 on a feasibility study, which included other buildings, a project manager, I think that was your words, and we have not availed ourselves to that.
Yeah.
Whether or not this whole idea is a good one to begin with, I just don't know. I'm not saying I'm against it, I'm saying I don't know. We have the report from the Utile company that's online, on the Long Range Building Committee. There's a lot of information there, but there have been some questions about that. Would it really cost $30 million to retrofit this building? What happens to the other buildings? Of course, Utile had other ideas like senior housing and so on and so forth. In any event, it's a lot of information, and this would be a big thing for everybody in the town of Westport. So I'm a little bit curious as to why we've not been interested in doing that, to give us the answer to the question, is this feasible? And here's some of the things maybe you need to think about that you haven't thought about.
Well, to be fair to the committee, they recommended, so before we were like, what should we do? Should we demolish it? Should we renovate it? Should we sell it, right? So they looked at like however many, 6 or 8 different options, right? So they recommended that we develop the plan for municipal use. Now, we haven't agreed to that yet and said, yes, please go ahead and develop a plan for municipal use. So I think that's where we are, is like, what do we want to tell them to do next?
Well, yeah, but the committee could have said, we would like to spend the money on the feasibility study.
Yeah.
had that been brought forth, personally, I would have been amenable to that, because that gives us more information. But this is not to second guess by any means, but that was not done. So regardless of who, the select board has the authority. The long-term building committee didn't have the authority to do that in the first place.
Yeah,
The town warrant, the article, was specific to the select board.
yeah.
So that, to me, would answer a lot of questions, for not just us, but for the town. And there's a lot of people who have varying views on this. They're confused, they don't know what it's gonna cost. I don't see anybody in the mood right now to spend $30 million, if that's what it is, on an excluded debt measure. I think that has no hope. I'm interested in what the cost is of retrofitting this building, which I mentioned at a prior meeting, which would be large enough to take over the functions of the annex and wouldn't need the annex, and that solves the annex problem, which you have articulated a couple of times, Craig. All of us have, and all of us have articulated our concerns. So I'm lobbying for doing that to get, not to delay this, because the time is clicking away here, and we saw the building, and it's deteriorating, and it's not getting any better. It's probably going to cost more. My concern is that a consultant might come back and say, the 29 million is off the board now, it's 50 million.
I'm pretty sure that's what they're gonna say, but I'm one person.
Yeah.
But we have a feasibility study. We had a feasibility study that was done in 2020. Like and you know, I agree we should use, I actually think we should use this money to go forward and do these things, right? To go evaluate the town buildings, to come up with a plan. Like, I think we should use that money to pay someone to help us do that. But I guess, are you thinking we need a different feasibility study? Or
I'm questioning your label of what we have as a feasibility study now. You talking about the Utah stuff that's on the webpage?
There were two.
Well, what's on the webpage?
Maybe we should let Mr. Thrasher answer. Is that okay? He would probably do that.
Sure.
Can you answer that first?
I prefer Mr.
Okay,
Hartnett,
sorry,
because
Mr.
that
Hartnett.
Util, whatever they pronounce that, was hired by the town administrator with the approval of the Board of Selectmen at the time.
Yes.
Okay, and I don't know what the right title is. I didn't look at it as a feasibility study. It had options.
Oh, no, you're right. It was the high school reuse study from 2022, the high school appraisal from 2022, and the code analysis from 2023, and the adaptive reuse analysis 2020. So you're saying that the adaptive reuse and the 2020 one, the adaptive reuse is the one I was thinking of. But there was also the Utah one in 2022.
Well, we went ahead, if I may, to answer. We went ahead with the article. We put the article at town meeting, knowing that this already existed. So we obviously must have had common thought that this wasn't enough to answer the feasibility question.
Possibly. I don't know.
Well, that's my view.
Yeah.
I'm just expressing my view. I'm only one
Yeah.
person here. But I'm saying that I don't have enough information in front of me to make a decision as to what is feasible and what we should do and what we shouldn't do. I don't know. And I want more information. I don't think the UTL goes that far and all that other stuff.
Okay. Mr. Thrasher.
Thank you. Christopher Thrasher, Drift Road, Chairman of the Long-Term Building Committee, although in this case I am just speaking as a concerned citizen here. First of all, nice to talk on happier subjects here. So to Mr. Brewer's point, I absolutely agree. There is not enough information as of yet, and that's actually been one of the serious issues that I have had in trying to evaluate, is this a good idea or is it not? There's between the studies that looked at, the Utah study looked at very specific uses, very specific scenarios, as opposed to a wider variety of whether it's, say, not having the Council on Aging as part of it, and it also included demolishing part of the structure. Without rehashing the arguments and comments about this building over and over again, it just, some people say that the building is dilapidated, we should sell it for scrap and call it a day, and some people say we can go and move in tonight. Obviously, the truth lies somewhere in the middle. What I am asking the Select Board to do is to give the Long-Term Building Committee a specific charge to create such a strategic plan, and by doing so, utilize the appropriations that have already been voted for in town meeting for the for the purposes of having a project manager, because there are so many different options, there are so many different things that need to be considered in order to actually get the information where we can make a sound decision. It's going to require a project manager, and frankly, the committee didn't really have that charge last year. And it was a situation where we had not only a lack of a well-defined objective and also mission creep, both at the same time. So I'm asking the select board here to make a specific charge of the long-term building committee. My suggestion is that the appropriations be utilized again to get a project manager to work in conjunction along with the committee to actually evaluate all of these different options. I think that the code compliance aspect is absolutely a crucial aspect, but I think that can be done alongside the rest of this evaluation. But again, the key is the appropriation has been made from town meeting. It's going to require a project manager being hired to oversee this. So,
Madam Chair. Chris, did we not hire a facilitator?
we hired a facilitator, and this goes back to the original question of the charge of the committee, because what the facilitator then focused on was what should we do with this building, evaluating the options, evaluating the options, whether, again, sell, rebuild, whatever. And
I don't want to interrupt.
nothing else. No, well, I'm just saying that's the problem. It's been a continual analysis paralysis. What we need is an actual charge to here, do this, get a project manager. You've already got the money's appropriated. Let's get some details. Let's get the figures so that we can actually make a sound decision. Because I absolutely agree with Mr. Brewer. We do not have enough information, and that's what I'm asking the select board to empower either. And frankly, you don't need a long-term building committee. You can indeed. You absolutely have the authority to do it without the involvement of the committee. Certainly would hope that you would involve the committee, but the point is, let's start working on getting all this stuff together, and it's going to take more than just a volunteer committee to do this. It's going to take a professional project manager to lay out all of these issues.
I completely agree. The beginning was, should we sell it? Should we keep it? Should we sell part of it? Should we keep part of it? Like and the committee went around a lot. So now if we zero in on, we want to use the building for municipal use, how feasible is that, right? If that's what you're talking about, is like, what is the feasibility? Does it make economic sense to repurpose that as a, so now it would be more specific charge, like, hey, the municipal office is moving over there, what would it take, right? So I absolutely think that's the right path. Now, my question though about the code compliance is, I think, I think maybe that happens with part of the whole feasibility study, but if we can get that answer, I don't know what the timing of a study like that looks like, maybe.
To me, if I may, Madam Chair, as an attorney, I can already tell you what your answer is going to be from any code compliance officer. The answer is going to be, it depends. It's like I heard from every law professor in my life, right? And that's why I think it needs to be part of a holistic approach with a project manager at the head of it to actually lay all this out. Because again, Mr. Brewer hit the nail on the head. I don't know if it's a good idea. I don't have numbers to see whether it's a good idea or not. So that's what I'm asking. But say it, like, bottom line, let's.
Well, we've talked a lot about, when we do the trade-offs in terms of change of use, we're talking about classroom uses. But there's a lot of square footage and acreage using for athletic fields, for gymnasium and sports activities. And so if you begin, you could take an entirely different look at that picture and say, we're not doing a substantial change when you look at all of these other uses that aren't mostly educational instruction, because if you look at the square footage of that site, including the building, there's a lot of square footage that's used for things other than education. Youth sports leagues, baseball leagues, I can go on and on.
So is the right next step then to put together an RFP for the feasibility study I don't know how, like, how we would Jim would need help with what are we putting together in the RFP, right? So what would you need?
Well, this is the way I thought it was gonna happen. We were gonna look at the building and see how bad off it was, and then move from there, get an answer from Ralph. I thought we were gonna get an answer from Ralph. Next step would be, you could work to your project manager, but the basic steps would be probably do air tests and see if people are even gonna be able to go in the building and look at the mechanical before we even stop playing. We already saw the water heaters are disconnected and boilers are open, blah, blah, blah. So we gotta start off with just the basics, because is that school even gonna make it through this winter? And I thought that's how we'd go from there. Then you want a project manager. Do the basic stuff that isn't gonna cost us. We can do our directly self. Do the air test. Make sure it's safe to even be in the building before we go crazy coming up with numbers. Because once they start taking stuff apart, you don't know what you're gonna find. So that's the basics. Just tell us what we can do with it first. If you're saying we gotta do the proposal, then go forward with the proposal, but we need to move.
But I mean, I think Mr. Thrasher has a point, though, like code compliance, I would just say, well, and like what you just said, it's kind of complicated. It's not just change of use, it's like some of these are.
There's guidelines.
Go ahead.
So the code compliance, we have a full report right now, but that's based on municipal offices, town hall annex, council on aging moving into the building.
There you go.
Based
That was
on,
the 2023 stuff.
based on all those uses going in at one time, it would trigger different code compliances, and that's where the $30 million came in. If it's done at different stages, code compliance may be different. But if it's an all-out use where town hall, the annex, council on aging are moving in there, we have a report right now that's been done by a code compliance so-called expert, and he said that if you do that, it's gonna trigger these things, and you're gonna have to make a number of improvements to the building.
Wait, could you just clarify, Jim, what's it gonna trigger if we do what?
So there's a,
Can we move the annex in there without?
That he didn't look at, right?
Just the annex office?
No, he looked at all the municipal uses as a whole, and based on that, based on cost, based on changing use, based on a few other things, that's when all these other things got triggered. If we move in a smaller portion, it may be different. It would be different, I don't know to what extent.
I think we need to look at that part, because I think to save the building, that would be our first step. Get the annex in there, get our building inspector in his office in there. He can work on all the future moving on. That's the other beauty of the building. It's large enough that we could have another project to move the council on aging in there while we're still occupying it, and do this in phases, you know, like as the money comes available. I mean, we got a grant to redo the heating system here. I mean, nobody's asked for a grant over there to fix what we need to do over there. We got issues right now where it's costing us money every year to run this building. We're still occupying it, and I mean, I hear a lot of things, but what I hear from the public is they want to keep the building, and we need to keep the building, so.
So the conclusion from this report says, unless a very limited scope project occurs, full compliance with 521 CMR, the installation of sprinklers, and an increase in bathroom facilities are likely. Interior finishes must be brought into compliance, as does egress illumination, exit signs, and fire alarm system. Construction type and egress are satisfactory. So I guess it just depends on the scope of the project. But I also think that, you know, a phased approach moving in is still a big project. And so I don't know. So I guess I'm leaning towards we need the feasibility analysis, but I also kind of.
Well, feasibility, moving the town hall annex in here is a start. See if we can do it.
So Jim, what information do you need, or what help do you need to put together an RFP for the feasibility?
I just need to know what the goal is. I guess what the charge is. Is it just to move the annex in there? Then we would look at things, where would you move them, you know, how much space would they need? What type of accessibility issues would you have for the public that are going there?
Technology, electric.
But that's not but you want more than, what you were talking about, Dick, was more than.
Yeah, the feasibility as to the totality here, the effect that it has on all the other town buildings, that's what I'm looking for. Is it feasible? That's another way of saying, is it a good idea? But it's not just idle conversation. It's based on the following facts. That's why I think the project manager might be the person or people who do this, to say, this is what you have to consider. If you do this is like chess, which I don't play. But you move that there and the whole board changes. You take that pawn out, it's different. This is what's going to happen here. You start moving the annex, that's going to have a domino effect. Other things are going to follow from that. And you may regret that later on, not you, us, because that wasn't the right move, had we known it at the time. And I want somebody who's expert in this area to say, this is what you're undertaking, and these are the ramifications of it. It's truly a feasibility study. Which is what it says in the article. And I don't think Utah gets us that far.
And Utah was looking at different uses. We could at least narrow it down to the feasibility of moving municipal offices to that location, right?
Or the feasibility of not doing it. You see,
Right.
to me, it's all open. I don't know what the right answer is. I really don't. I don't have an agenda here. I have no agenda. I don't know what I'm doing. Therefore, I want to have a feasibility study of people saying, this is, Mr. Brewer, here's what you got to do. You take on a project like this is what it means to the town, and here are the moving parts. I don't know that.
Okay.
Well, we got the 30 million.
If I may, Madam Chair, the last thing I will say is just to underline that point. If you do another feasibility study with a very specific one-time scenario, and that's it, we're going to waste another year. It needs to be a holistic, overall feasibility study that includes not just that building, but all other town buildings as well. Again, the money's there from the appropriation. Project manager seems to be the way to go, in my opinion.
So I think that maybe where I am at is there's two potential paths here. So one is do the feasibility study, evaluate all the town buildings, get up-to-date estimates, talk to them about a phased approach. If we were to do this over 3 to 5 years, how might we increment that in, or should we increment that in, or whatever. So I think you're right. The whole project, all the town buildings involved. Let's go get an RFP out to do that. So someone probably needs to help Jim, but let's get an RFP for that. I also think that there are a lot of people who think that we can just move in soon and move, like you just said, move the building inspector over there tomorrow, right? Yep. Before we move the building inspector over there tomorrow, I want to make sure from code compliance and legal and insurance that we can do that.
Maybe you should look at that and leaving them in at the annex, if we can leave them at the annex.
The only reason I'm asking is because,
Evaluate the annex right now before you decide that.
No,
We're
it's
already
not the
occupying
same
the
thing.
school
It
now.
is not the same thing because, the annex needs a lot of work. This building needs a lot of work. There's absolutely no doubt in my mind, we need millions of dollars of renovation. In fact, it's in one of these studies, millions of dollars renovation in these two locations. I agree with you, but we're here. It doesn't cost any money to state this year's budget, doesn't cost any money in this year's budget to stay here, right? Moving changes things. There's money associated with the cost of moving itself. There's cost of, the changes that you have to make. There's some money. Now, maybe not big money. If you're only moving a few little apartments, it might not be big money, but it's making a change. It's easier to keep the status quo than make a change, which is why we have falling down buildings that are requiring millions of dollars of repair right now. So it's not as simple as, hey, it would cost more to fix up this building, because we're not gonna fix up this building except Band-Aids here and there as we do them.
This
right?
building's gonna
It's
be a
not
tough
the
sell.
same
The
thing.
annex is easy.
I mean,
It's not the same thing,
this
but,
building,
but maybe we
how much
should
of a
look at
grant
your
did we get for the heating system here?
Yeah, this
800,000?
This one's gonna be a tough sell.
if we sell the building, you'd need to have an improved heat system.
No,
you
people
know?
I don't
don't
think
want
we
this
should sell
building
this
going
building.
on. No,
This
people
is a
don't
very
want it.
historic building, which I find
Right.
fascinating.
Used to be a
Is
jail.
so many people are so obsessed with the history of the high school. This is a historic building.
Because we haven't mentioned.
Built by the
this-
WPA. It's like
Right.
the town symbol and everything.
Yes.
Like, I don't think, maybe we want to do something different with this
Oh, that's
building.
why I said the
Maybe
annex
it would be
and
a
not the
great
town hall.
museum. It might be a great museum or something. I don't know. But I think that if there is a desire, if Mr. Soares specifically, because you're the one that keeps bringing it up, if you want to move the building department over there, then get me the code compliance officer saying it's okay, and the lawyers and the insurance company saying it's okay. And
Well, we
then
think they
let's-
could
You
take
can
us.
ask Ralph that
talk about
tomorrow.
They got offices open now.
Charge Ralph with that thing.
No,
Get
not
that.
charge Ralph with it. Ralph has his
Because
day
Ralph will-
job.
And this is what his job is. He's
Okay,
not
well,
code
he can do the
compliance.
code compliance part, but he's not gonna do the other part.
Well, then it's Jimmy's job to ask.
Well, you can put a proposal together specifying for Jimmy what
I'm-
he wants, what you want him to do.
Right now, I'm saying that. Well, this whole thing is, the whole reason we did this is because we've been kicking the can down the road. There was $200,000 appropriated, but we don't have any money for anything. But that $200,000 appropriated is still sitting there. So now we still want to go back and spend that. We already see we have a need, and we're occupying the building now. We're talking very minor to move the annex over there.
Fine, prove it that it's very minor.
It's not my job to prove it. I'm
You
bringing
can
it,
put
I'm
the
telling you what
proposal
my
together.
constituents are telling me, and I'm telling you now. If you want to just keep doing studies, that's fine.
No, I don't. I want to
Long-term
sell the
building
building.
should have bought that.
I
I
have
will
been
res-
on the record since
Long-
2018 as wanting to sell the building. In 2018, I wanted to sell the building. I have been consistent ever since.
Oh, and
I am
and
not
would-
putting together the proposal to
And
do anything with
and I
that
was
building.
also,
But I
I was
will
also during
support the
COVID
people
in the
that are
in the
making something happen.
Master Plan Review Committee, and I know what the Master Plan Review Committee wanted. Everybody wanted to demolish the building and put housing there, okay? Now the people that are still using those fields all summer, they've been coming in. The town does not want to get rid of the building.
Right, people didn't
You
want to
do.
go, people didn't go with
There's other
me.
people here that do.
No, that's fine. I
It really
agree.
doesn't matter to me, I'm just saying what I hear from the townspeople.
People want to move over to that building for municipal offices, great.
And I keep
People
hearing we
wanna
don't
do
have
that.
any money, so I don't know why we want to keep spending that $200,000. We've studied it to death. We can ask Ralph if we can move in. Let's stop the bleeding at the annex.
I think we should put together an RFP and then we can, do you need a vote of the board to put together an yeah, you don't, I don't think.
No,
We can put together an RFP and then we can vote on whether we want to proceed.
So would the RFP be an RFP just on what it would be to move the annex there?
No.
Why not?
No, we're talking
Why not?
over
Because
here
that's our
about the
immediate
full
need.
scope.
That's our immediate need right now. Move the annex there.
I think that the full, one of the things you have to explore is a phased-in approach.
Mhm.
And I agree with you, Minnie, I would start with the annex, because I've spouted off about that, I think, at least once a meeting for the last 2 meetings, so I'm not gonna do it again.
Cheapest rent in the region for the businesses there. All right, so we need to give them a charge.
All right, so
A business.
please put together an RFP
business.
for feasibility, looking at all the existing town buildings. Possibly a phased approach for that, whatever else Dick said, because it was pretty smart.
Well, I do think we have a little housekeeping. So this is not, we're not charging a long-term building
No.
committee with this task.
No.
Okay. So it's now a select board task under the leadership of Jim, per project managers, whatever. And I do think this, we shouldn't be studying this forever, by the way. We want to get finality. The people who are going to work for us, we've got to understand, we want to move ahead here. We need help. And, so I agree with Manny. We've been studying this for a long time. But in my view, we haven't really answered the question, is this really a good idea in the first place? I'm just saying, I don't know. Maybe I'm the only one on this committee that doesn't know, but that's the way I feel. I'm being honest about it, and I won't vote for it unless I know.
No, I don't know. We need to know how much it's gonna cost and how we're gonna pay for it.
So do we need a motion for Jim to proceed?
I don't think.
No, Jim just said he could do,
So you're gonna proceed with that.
I will present some type of RFP proposal to the board, and you guys can give me direction as if it's the way you want to go.
Okay, that's good. Is that okay with you so far?
Yeah, the important
I'm
part.
I'm for whatever, personally, I'm for whatever brings action. I will say I have had requests from members of the long-term building committee to convene a meeting, and if there's, whether it's to give more, food for thought for Jim to create the RFP or whatever, or if there's going to be a charge going forward, I would just like something from the select board if possible for what the committee's next steps are. Even if that's to do nothing right now, that's fine.
Yeah, so I think the general consensus is we want to kind of keep exploring moving the municipal offices. But if you want to wait, it depends. Do you want to give input to Jim while he's crafting the RFP? Then please feel free.
So,
I'm sure
so
you
my thought would be I would prepare kind of like a flow chart. Say these are the options, and if the board agrees with it, then we would go through the RFP
Okay.
process, yeah.
good idea.
That sounds good. So I think you can give them an update, but I think that after that will be more.
That's fair enough, absolutely. Like I said, I'm for whatever is going to bring some action here, so, thank you.
Okay. Okay, anything else on the old high school or the site visit?
But I did make one error that K was on the agenda.
K was on the posted agenda?
I didn't see
It wasn't on the one on
Wasn't
Westport.
online, no, that's.
Let's go look
Unless I missed
online.
it.
Oh.
Is it, it wasn't on
It's
the
on the
version I
printed
looked at? Is there more than one version on
The one I copied was the one that was online when you sent out the notice, and K is on here.
Okay, all right, so we should go back. Well, so the K that we skipped over, which we're not going to take action on because the people who might be interested in this are gone.
Well, this,
Well, no, this is the first two.
This is the other one.
But this says recommendation to the next meeting anyway.
All right, so K, yeah, all right, so K was on there, sorry. So this K was the scheduled order of takings for the pump station easements for 35 and 287 State Road. Does anybody know if any of the people that were here were interested in 35 or 287 State Road?
I think we defer to the next meeting.
I think we should
Yeah,
defer to the
That's
next
the
meeting.
recommendation before anyways.
Yeah, I agree. All right,
so the
so,
next meeting, we'll put the same item on, so we're not gonna put the taking order at the next meeting.
And give a courtesy email to Mr. Moore.
Yeah, and please-
And the other gentleman.
yeah, please make sure 35 and 287, but also 833 and 1115 are
Yes.
notified that we're gonna talk about the order of takings.
Just for the first two, though, right?
Yeah, just for the first two. We don't have enough, yeah, just for
give
the
them a
first
status,
two.
because they wanted to know. the
But they
status.
but let's make sure they're in the loop.
Okay.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Jim, could you also get a copy of the full set of plans? Both stay in the planning board and selectmen's, so that these people, when they come in, they can see what's going on?
I thought the planning board has a full set.
I don't know, I requested it, but I haven't seen it, but I'll follow
They're the
it
ones
up.
that did the.
In the water one, too, I think they took that full
Yeah.
set the other day.
Yeah, well, I did request that at the bid, so I haven't been there yet, we'll be there tomorrow, so.
I will check. Just say, we've requested a significant amount of information from Kleinfelder as they wrap up these contracts. We want a full package of all the work that they've done in CAD format, and I think you had mentioned a different format that's usable, so that they're working on. They're working on the water line contract, that's why they haven't got it to us yet.
Okay, good.
They are working on it.
So the thing on the water line contract too, if you get that CAD file, because there's also, highways should probably get a model built for that. I don't know, this contractor that got the bid, what his capabilities are, but on how this stuff's gonna get laid out and how it was in the contract. I mean, when we could probably review that contract for planning board, but how they're gonna move forward, and did we get a bid? I might be jumping ahead of myself, but did we get the bid for the inspection?
Yes, we
Was
have
that open?
two companies that submitted bids.
All right, so let's go into the TA report, because I think he has some of them.
All right. Just an update, Westport stormwater mapping, we're still working through the planning department in Buzzards Bay National Estuaries project, and the highway department as well has been working with interns with Mass Maritime and the Buzzards Bay National Estuary project to locate our existing stormwater system and map it out. There is a website you can go on and kind of see where these things are. These are not being mapped exact, but it's there for illustration purposes so that we can determine different watersheds and where these outlets are from the catch basins. They're also doing water quality testing at the outlets to see if we have any illicit discharge. The CREHAB program, grant repair program, Select Board Member Dutra mentioned, I think at the last meeting, that application, grant application is available. It'll run through June 20th of 2025. And the Housing Trust Office is open on Wednesday if anybody has any questions.
It's first come, first served, so don't wait until June of '25, because you could have some proposals coming in the next couple of months.
Let's see, the MAC Loop, the PFAS water grant, I just put some additional information in there. There was a press release last week from the Healy Driscoll administration. Westport received $4 million out of the $17 million that was available. There's only one other grant in the state that was larger than Westport, and that was $5 million. All the other ones were like $1 million, less than $1 million, some were $100,000. So we were very fortunate to get that. That contract went out to bid. We opened that bid last week, and the bids came in probably about 25% lower than the design estimates. Came in about $3.1 million with engineering costs, inspections, and change orders were probably closer to the $4 million, but we have a $4 million grant, and we have another just over $1 million with Bristol County ARPA funds that we can use for that water line contract. So we'll have to look to see if we want to extend the water line in different areas and where streets might be beneficial once we get the contractor on board. I just sent him a notice of award, went out today, So we should have a contract before the board, hopefully at the next meeting.
Did
They're
we
looking
vote
to start.
proceed? Did we vote to proceed on that yet? To award it?
We have not awarded the contract yet. No, that'll come here. I just gave them a notice that they were the low bidder.
And there were add-ons to that, right? So you were talking about so it came in under what we already had, but we can extend that contract, right?
So we went out for a base bid, which
Yeah.
would have been Route 6 in Osborne Street, and then we did an ad alternate that was
Ad
Clifford
alternate.
Road, and that was included in the 3.1 total, so even with the ad alternate, we were under the estimate, so.
And Jimmy, that loop, that helps with water quality, on one of our problems that we have on Route 6. So I think, however the bid was written up to, any usable monies should be used to extend it to Route 6. So down Route 6, we can head towards Forge Road and that direction in hopes of looping into maybe Beaton and head towards the high school at some point in time. Do we have any other, again, this was a PFAS grant, and I guess Roger's the project manager for the Route 6 Sewer and Water Project. We had that other issue up on Sanford Road with PFAS, and we got the problem at the fire station with PFAS. Are we looking into more grant money so we can keep this work rolling, so we can put another bid out next
If you're
year?
aware of any grants, let us know, and we'll take a look at them. This PFAS money was actually ARPA funds that they channeled through, so this was the remaining ARPA funds from the federal government that the state had to use immediately, before, they had to be obligated by December, so that's why this money was available. I don't know how much, there's not gonna be any more ARPA funds after December, so unless they reappropriate or appropriate new funds for this, there may not be as much money available. But if you're aware of any, let us know, and we'll take a look.
Well, I did, that consultant that reached out, that said he could find us on had a very limited scope, and, we still haven't you still haven't given him a shot.
Oh, no, I did. I reached out to him with the inspection contract. I sent a notice. I sent him the packet. He did not bid on the packet.
Yeah, I don't think they're not really an inspection type of contractor, or I should say consultant.
So the town hall remediation plan, we do have some contamination for some old oil tanks that were in the ground years ago. We're still under review by the state. It's being monitored by Campbell Associates. The report basically kind of says that it's improving slightly, but they're going to have to continue monitoring. So this could go on for a while.
Campbell's our LSP for the mass contingency plan?
Yeah. He's here. He's also at the transfer station as well.
Now, what about the fire station now with the PFAS contaminations and stuff?
PFAS contamination, they tested the well at the Briggs Road Fire Station a couple of months ago, and they had elevated levels of PFAS, I think at 29. I think the level they're looking at is 20. They were going to retest it. I don't have the...
What about the salt and stuff too?
I haven't heard about the salt. I'm not aware of the salt. Yeah, I can check if there's something out there with the salt. The Town Hall Annex well, we did get approval from Mass DEP. The water quality testing was done. The pumps test was completed. They still want us to monitor it for a few months to see if the treatment is, that we have a small treatment system there for the water. They want to make sure that that's working properly. Hicksbridge Landing.
Jim, can I just go back on the annex? So what's the treatment system for?
So we have, like most wells here in Westport, we have, I think it's high iron and maybe manganese.
Manganese?
Hicksbridge Landing, we're still working, we're still trying to work with the owners of the abutting property to see if we can reach a temporary agreement on an easement or a licensing agreement until we can get an easement in place. They have concerns, and we haven't been able to address all their concerns at this point. I'm not sure if we're gonna get that licensing agreement, so it may be closed off for the rest of the year, but we are still working on it. Wind turbine debris, we've discussed that, I think, quite a bit. I will say I did receive a call today from Dana Ribeiro, who's one of their public relations people, and she said that they've been out on the beach collecting debris over the last couple of weeks. It slowed down the last few days, but there was one day they collected 30 pounds, another day 8 pounds, I think another day 6 pounds. So they have picked up quite a bit along the beaches here in Westport.
again, I think on that too, like, Steve, you're out there with the news reporters, and I think we need to get it across to the public and, you know, coming in with pieces of fiberglass, picking it up, I mean, they really need a
They
lift.
put it on the website right away. I mean, what else
Yeah,
would
I
you do
mean,
there?
just for informational, you don't want to pick this stuff up.
Yep.
Don't pick it up.
Don't pick it up.
Don't bring it to town
and
hall.
Don't throw it, yep, don't throw it in a meeting.
You can check on the town website, there's a number you can call, there's a web page that you can enter the information on, and they'll come and pick it up. If you can't get a hold of anybody, call us, and we will follow up for you. That's all I have.
Okay. Minutes. Were the minutes in our
Sorry,
file?
there was one more thing. The
Okay, go
town-
ahead.
Town landing, bench and parking. I spoke to Jeff Bull. He had requested it be on this agenda, but I did not make it for this agenda. So it'll be on the next agenda on the west side of Hicks Bridge, on the north side of the road, there's a small landing. And they would like to add some parking, move the stones back so that you could park maybe 3 or 4 cars along the side of the road, as well as put in a bench where you could sit. It's actually a beautiful location. He's currently looking to see if they would require or recommend to the select board that they require Hicks Bridge passes in order to park there. Still looking to make sure that, you know, because it's in the road layout and not the landing, that we can make that work. So hopefully for the next meeting, we can have more information on that.
And the trash. If you're gonna create a place for people to hang out, you need to get rid of the trash, because it's bad enough with the playgrounds. There are barrels everywhere.
I thought we didn't put barrels at the playgrounds.
Bicentennial, they're everywhere. I mean, people go there, they change diapers and whatnot.
Yeah, no, but I thought that we didn't put the barrels there anymore because that
I
very
don't know.
problem. I don't
Last
think,
time I
I
was
don't think
there.
we're put trash there.
Actually, a neighbor was plucking weeds last time I was there, trying to make it look better. Bicentennial.
So wait, the next item was the minutes, but I don't see the minutes in the packet. Were the minutes in the packet?
I mean, I found them.
You found them, okay. Maybe I'm just the only one that didn't find them.
Man, my drive's been tough too. I don't know what's up with it.
So how are your minutes then?
The minutes accurately reflect my recollections of the meeting.
Which
I
one
was
was you
quoted
moving?
correctly, no.
Which one's he moving?
So you've got July 8, July 22, and August 6.
Yeah, August 6th, I did not read, but I saw them someplace, but there wasn't much.
Do you have them?
No, I don't have.
Yeah, I didn't have a meeting.
I don't have them.
Can we hold off to the next one on that?
Yeah,
'Cause
let's wait
I
until
was
the
having
next
a problem
meeting.
with my drive bringing up files too.
Well, I'm having a problem with the drive period, but I gotta talk to Jim about that.
Probably talk to Paula. She'll be more helpful. No, Jim will be very helpful. I was just.
No, I can find them, but.
I'm good with
I
that.
also have to send them sometimes. But rest assured that the other two, when you read
The
them.
ones that you read were great, right?
They were great.
Okay. All right, we're going to skip over the minutes right now. Report on the bill warrant?
Madam Chair, yes, I was a little bit surprised when I found two my work products in the package. One was from 7/26, and the latest one last week was 8/9. But I'll ask Paula, so we didn't approve this one?
No, because we had a 3-week meeting.
It's because of the 3-week thing. Yeah, the one that we had to redo and I could come back the next day, it was the prior one, right? Okay, all right, then that explains it. All right, so it's the 3-week thing. So the first one, we don't have to approve these, but it was 7/26, it was $4 million and change. Nothing unusual, all in order. That's in there for your review. And then last week was a more normal $2.3 million, and everything there was in order, so you're all good.
Thank you. Okay, we have liaison committee reports and suggestions for future items. So Craig?
I think we are looking for a grant for an RFP for land procurement for the Affordable Housing Trust. We have not drafted an RFP and circulated it yet. But we've also heard from Buzzards Bay Habitat for Humanity that they are looking at some potential properties in the Sodom Road area that have been advertised of some land. And so they've sent that to us or asked us to consider a possible partnership with them. But if it would be done, it'd have to be done in conjunction with an RFP. So we can't get, but there are, I guess the long and the short of it is we're going to be looking for potential land that could house both affordable units and maybe other mixed using that another developer, third party could be a partner with. Or we're looking at a smaller development like we did over on Sodom Road, where we had 2 duplexes that were done in collaboration with Habitat for Humanity. So that's where we are.
Oh, thank you. Dick?
I'm looking at all my committees here, and we haven't met in on a number of them because for one reason or another, they don't have August meetings, like the Council on Aging. The next one there is September, and I'll report on that. But what did take place is the annual meeting of the Bristol County Commissioners to approve their budget. And what we're interested in, for the most part, is Bristol Aggie. And Bristol Aggie had a 7.4% increase in their budget, and that was actually an improvement over last year, where they had a big increase. And I made the Finance Committee aware of this, so they're fully apprised. And there's nothing there out of the ordinary. This can all be explained, but it was a little higher than I would have liked, but I'm hoping that levels off now going forward. So that took place, and I actually voted for it. And the other committees that I'm on, we haven't met, so that's my report.
Is the auditor scheduled for another time?
Yeah, well, he couldn't make it, so I think he's on for the next one, Jim, isn't he?
Yes.
Yeah.
Next.
Who?
Roselli,
Oh, okay, sorry.
the audit.
The reason I asked is I was gonna say we should have Jennings in one of these days to update us on Diamond. That was gonna be part of my spiel. Are you done, Dick?
Yes, I'm done.
What about me?
What's that? Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you went last. Sorry.
I'll go. There, I haven't really had that many meetings, but there is a meeting of the school building committee this week, which hasn't met in a while. So, school building committee on Thursday. And then I just want to remind people, Westport Recreation has some really great summer things. And one of them is the Thursday evening concerts, but they have, I think it's Saturday movie nights and a lot of programming. So go check out Westport Recreation. Okay, now.
And it's past Selectman Valcourt's band, I think, this week, isn't it?
Brian Valcourt's band
Yeah, there you
playing
go.
on Thursday. I think that they're gonna dodge the rain.
I know. Well, on that topic too, we've been getting some complaints on all the signs on every corner. And when I'm looking, it's mostly recreation, and now it's the artists. But I got a call, and I talked to Chris Gonzalez. He said he's been having people complain too. A lot in the Horse Neck Road area, but they're starting to gather on all the corners again. And like I said, he's getting complaints. I said, we'll take them down, Chris, if they don't belong there, unless it's the town function. But Jim, I don't know if you should talk to him or whatever, but I don't think we still have a policy, but it's common. We've got an election in a couple of weeks, so there'll probably be more popping up. But I know he just said it's getting real bad again.
Yeah, just to kind of say that a different way, you can't post signs in a public roadway. So if your signs are if you're in the road layout, then you can't post signs there. So that means you have to put signs on someone whose property who you have permission to be on. We do have made exceptions for some of the town events. Like I think the artist one, we've made exceptions for and we granted.
Yeah, I think people can't really read the rec ones, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
Unless the one like Briggs Road, you're sitting there with the light, you got time to read it, but it's so small.
But I think you're right too, though, like once people see signs there, then they just keep putting signs there.
And then, they're complaining about Charlotte and 88 now. They're really putting up more signs, it seems like every week. There's a
Yeah.
banner now.
Yeah,
There's another
they're-
sign put there. That's the state layout, but I don't think anybody's paying attention. So anyways, I just said I would bring it to the board's attention while you're driving around if you notice it, you think it's a problem. Yes, I was down the beach checking it out, and I got accosted to get interviewed. I went down to see if it was as bad as Bouchard, with just so people know, I think it was 02 or something, the Bouchard barge let out like, I don't want to get sued, I think it was 98,000 gallons of fuel. And when you went to Horse Neck and you went to our beaches, it reeked, and there was a sheen across the water, and it was on our beaches. That's I guess if you have to say this good part, that's the only good part about this, is that you can pick it up, but the shards are horrible. I mean, the aquatic life I'm concerned with, but, I envision it being a little bit worse, but it's still not a good situation. On Serped, I got put on the SEMPO, which is now the Metropolitan Planning, so I'm on the regional for that, so we could probably get more stuff done. Gail left, but they're excited about continuing the bike path, so we've been busy, and hopefully good things can happen. We just got to get that section together, the Narrows area, and see what we're going to do.
We hit a lot of the points on stuff that I'm on. However, I think on a future agenda, I think we need to look into possibly discussing a project manager for to continually move forward with this water main extensions. I mean, this was great that we got this grant, and this has been needed since, I mean, when did it go in first in '88? It was the early '80s, right?
Yeah, but that was an emergency, but yeah, that's what.
Well, that's what this is right now, so.
Well, PFAS can be done with filters, but still, we need it. I don't think we're gonna have the.
What happens with the filters?
You
And
change
the
them.
filters, you still have to test them.
Right.
When you have a municipal water supply, that's how you fix it. So I think we need to move forward with continued loop in this water main to get our water quality in Westport. So, you know, I know Roger was our project manager for the Route 6 sewer, and, you know, I suggested, you know, I guess I didn't follow the right procedure when I went through Mr. Brewer on the situation on Sanford Road, but I think we need to look forward to hiring a project manager to kind of investigate that next loop, you know, probably crossing 88 and coming out on Sanford Road. And, you know, pursue more grant money. That's it.
Anything else? Okay. Do we have any comments or statements from the public? Okay.
Madam Chair, one more last thing. Again, for the public's point, the water main, again, there's no betterment. The water main's going by these properties. Nobody's being forced to tie into this water. There'll be a curb stop in front of your property. If you feel that it's necessary for you to tie in, you'll be able to tie in.
Thank you. Do we have any topics not anticipated? We are going to go into executive session. We'll come out of executive session only to adjourn. We will not conduct business after the executive session. I will entertain a motion pursuant to the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 38, Section 21A, where the chair declares an open meeting will have a detrimental effect to A, discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining, the Westport Permanent Firefighters Association, Local 1802. B, discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining, Teamsters Local 251. C, approve minutes of July 8 and July 22, 2024.
So moved, Steve Millet.
Richard Brewer, seconds that motion.
I, Manny Solis.
Aye, Steve Millet.
Aye, Shauna Tees.
Richard Brewer.
All right, we're adjourned, or we're in executive.